печеньку у зеленому саду. Чи не вийде дівчинонька рано вранці по ладу? Маруся, раз, два, три, калина чорнява, як дівчина саду ягоди рвала. Маруся, раз, два, три, калина чорнява, як дівчина саду ягоди рвала. Вийшла дівчинонька рано вранці воду брать, а за нею козаченько веде коня напувать. Маруся, раз, два, три, калина чорнява, я дівчина саду ягоди рвала. Маруся, раз, два, три, калина чорнява, я дівчина саду ягоди рвала.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар. Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Futures of
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I am the Enforcer, and I'm coming to you by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1041 of the news. And you joined us on a Monday night, which is not usual for us, but we're trying to catch up on some missed streams. And it's good to see you all once again. And we have very big news today that Ukraine destroyed a key Russian oil pipeline. Also, a major Russian command bunker was struck by a HIMARS, and Crimea is under Ukrainian naval drone attack in very big fashion. And it's good to see you all once again.
And, of course, we're going to be covering the past 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. As many of y'all are probably hearing, that I'm already trying to stifle down coughs at this moment. I do have to let y'all know, a big apology for the intermittent schedule that we've been having after Christmas. I've been trying to battle a cough as much as possible. There hasn't really been that much of a fix to it, but tonight I am using the strongest cough medicine I could find. It's so strong, it's not in a syrup form, it is in a pill form. So hopefully this time, this will actually help out a great deal. However, I won't be able to give the same kind of influxuations and kind of like hype that I usually bring, because that would start to make me choke. So unfortunately, I will not be able to do that, but we do have a massive amount of news to cover, an insanely high amount, as a matter of fact, as we were able to hear that a Ukrainian long-range strike into the Russian Federation within the city of Lgov has stricken a Russian underground bunker of a large size near to the area of the Lgov railway station, resulting in a massive secondary explosion that was seen around the surrounding countryside, and we were able to hear that there was a massive amount of damage caused to the Russian Federation's armed forces, as well as their supply depots that are continuing to supply their war effort within the Kursk Oblast, where Russian and North Korean soldiers continue to run headlong into Ukrainian defensives and make absolutely no headway whatsoever in actually pushing the Ukrainians out of the Russian Federation. Meanwhile, outside of that area, and just about 100 miles north and west, we were able to hear that within the town of Novozbaikov, that a major Russian pipeline pumping station has been stricken by Ukrainian fire with an unknown weapon, and it appears that the pipeline has been knocked offline for now. This pipeline is one of the only two remaining pipelines that is continuing functioning into the area of the European Union, with two of them traveling through Ukraine cut off, and the Nord Stream 1 and the Nord Stream 2 pipelines either having never been completed or shut down before they could really be put into good use, making the Russians money in the war due to some form of sabotage from an unknown actor. We have also been able to hear that within the area of Azerbaijan, the continued drama about the shooting down of the Azerbaijan Airlines flight over the Russian Federation continues, as an official statement from the president of Azerbaijan has been made today. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones are hammering the city of Sevastopol, attempting to destroy critical military infrastructure of the Russian Federation within the area. Massive explosions have been reported, but exact damage is unknown at this time. Meanwhile, inside the front lines of Ukraine, heavy frontline fighting has ensued. Interestingly enough, although heavy winter weather continues to stand in the way of most front lines, the Ukrainians are giving it their all and are continuing to inflict incredibly high casualties on a surprising, still offensive Russian force in the middle of the winter, though logistically and tactically most difficult time of the year to fight in at any point. Meanwhile, inside the Middle East, we have been able to hear that the Israelis have continued to intercept incoming ballistic missiles fired from the Yemeni Houthis on the southern side of the Arabian Peninsula. Inside of Damascus, we have also been able to hear a major step forward as the Ukrainians have now officially opened an embassy inside of Damascus in support of the Syrian interim government, led by the multiple factions that have now coalesced to create the interim government that exists in Syria at the time. We have also been able to hear shocking news that a border skirmish is currently breaking out right now in between the Emirate of Afghanistan and the nation of Pakistan, as it appears that larger border skirmishes are beginning to happen throughout the entirety of the border. It does seem as though Afghanistan and Pakistan being a nuclear-armed country, may be possibly moving forward into an actual armed conflict in the future. And we have also been able to hear that an arrest warrant has been issued for the president of South Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol, while he is still in office at this time. There is an absolutely massive load of news to cover today. We have an insanely high amount, as a matter of fact. We rarely ever get a large amount of news like this, and of course, we are excited to be able to cover it with each and every single one of y'all. But moving on into that major breaking news, we were able to see that within the city of Lgov, a major attack occurred. As we understand, Ukrainian artillerists inside of Ukraine itself apparently moved HIMARS into position of the M142 variety and fired off several ATACMS from inside of Ukraine across the Russian Federation's border and into the city of Lgov. Lgov is a somewhat smaller city along the E38 highway, and we have been able to see that Lgov has been a strategically significant city in the past. It is the road on the midway point in between the city of Kursk and the city of Rilisk, both major key points in fighting the battle against the Ukrainians inside the Kursk Oblast. Lgov serves as the halfway point, and not only that, it also serves as a major staging and force building area for the Russian Federation's armed forces before they begin to advance down the road and engage the Ukrainians somewhere south of Kromsky-Byky. From what we understand, this area is used for ammunition storage amongst many other things, but what is most important is the area around the Lgov railway station. Somewhere around this area, there is actually an underground bunker that the Russian Federation has been using recently to be able to supply themselves with munitions and equipment to be able to keep up the war effort. From what we understand, the Ukrainians fired off several ATACMS missiles, all missiles hitting around this bunker near to the railway station and causing significant damage, and also leading pretty much to the destruction of the surrounding area. And we were able to get loads of video clips showing this, such as this one right here, which I'll be showing y'all really quickly, filmed by a Russian on the ground in Lgov.
Sounds like Syria to me.
Sounds like popcorn to me. Sounds like someone's breaking in. But nevertheless, we were also able to see an additional clip as well, showing the strike in Lgov from another angle. We hear two explosions.
Rattling the ground, even.
There's the third. The fourth.
Man, you know when the audio gets like absolutely peaked out like that, you either have a perfect Bing camera or you have massive explosions like that from a HIMARS.
Man, look at, dude, that's like the meme boom sound effect right there. It's like, look at the Russians with no air defense having ass. And then you play that noise after that. It's like, that's like the ultimate meme. Silence has now descended over the surrounding area. And we're now getting another angle. Dang.
Man, it's like, these cameras must be cheap as hell to like the audio to sound that terrible, but those are some big explosions. Look at it, it's like a nuke going off this camera so bad. It's just static.
Dude, the straight up Temu camera out here capturing HIMARS explosions. And now
And the
he
Russians
sees.
would have us believe this is just some kids with a drum and bass in their cars on a Saturday.
You know, the Russian government's already writing up a statement. We shut down all of the ATACMS. However, unfortunately, the falling debris did hit the target and destroy it. It's like very unfortunate for them because we did get another video even of the explosions on the ground. This is much like the first one I showed y'all with a crackling popcorn kind of a clip that we got, but a little bit different.
Ничего не видно, но жесть, короче. Пожар начался.
He seems confused.
Ребята все в бункере, много человек.
The Russian arsonist is always confused when the fires are not set by him because he's like, my joy, where did they go? And he, you know, he didn't get to set the fire, so he's kind of a little unhappy with it. But we finally got one more little bit of news. This was actually removed, so we will not be able to show that to y'all. But nevertheless, the strike was fairly significant from what we understand, and it will be posing a major loss once more to the Russian Federation's armed forces inside the Kursk Oblast. Currently, they are taking incredibly high losses. If we're to speak of the coalition fighting within the area that consists of the Russian Federation's armed forces, or the Russian Federation ground forces specifically, and the Korean People's Army in the form of the, I believe it's the Storm Unit, if I remember the name specifically, that was brought straight from Pyongyang and into the area around Sucha. From what we're understanding, they're not doing incredibly well, and in fact, the North Koreans are taking an insanely high rate of losses over a very short period of time. From what we're generally understanding, it does seem as though one second. It does seem as though the Russian Federation and the North Koreans will not be able to advance quite easily through this area, as it shows that they're continuing to have major logistical issues behind the lines, keeping running command headquarters, such as this one right here, right inside the town of Marino. They also are having an incredibly difficult time really maintaining armed forces behind the lines as well, as a large amount of training camps and also force buildups are being targeted and destroyed by the Ukrainians before they can even make it there. And of course, in today's instance, we are seeing that ammunition is also being stricken and destroyed as well, which is a not so great thing for the Russian Federation overall, especially in a logistical perspective, as it's greatly limiting the ability of strikes that they're able to make against the Ukrainians with artillery, and therefore greatly diminishing their armed forces' abilities and being able to conduct an offensive and actually take the initiative when conducting offensive actions. Overall, we are largely assuming that this front line is well secured at the time, and while the Russians are fighting heavily to regain control of the Sucha area, we do not believe that they will actually be able to effectively gain control of the surrounding area for quite some time, or ever for that matter, until the war concludes. A major deal. And a lot of people are actually wondering what in the world is inside of that bunker. Hearing the snap, crackle, and pop of popcorn usually would lead one to believe that it most likely is some sort of a supply bunker filled with munitions that were stored underground. An incredibly bizarre and rare thing to see, really throughout the entirety of the war, but still a decent possibility. Some people are believing that it could have been other things, however. Some people are saying that it was probably top Russian commanders inside of that bunker, maybe North Korean soldiers in mass, maybe both targets were present at the same time, and some are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so what was the probable target inside of that Russian command bunker today that was hit by several major HIMARS missiles? So it looks like 45% said top Russian officials were probably in the bunker that Ukraine was trying to take out, while 29% said maybe both targets were present, and 17% said it was probably North Korean soldiers in mass. And considering it was a Russian command bunker, I doubt it was a mass amount of North Korean soldiers. It was probably more likely than not, probably top Russian officials hanging out down there, issuing orders to the battlefield troops. Now, I'm not ruling out the fact that maybe there were some high-ranking North Korean leadership down there in the bunker. That's a possibility. We did know they were in the area, but I'm going to sort of go right in the middle and say maybe both targets were present at the same time, and I'm with the 30%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would actually have to go with a group that is unsure. We have not heard any casualty reports from any groups at this moment about who was killed inside the bunker. We haven't heard anything about North Koreans, which we would hear about from the Russians. We haven't heard about any Russians being killed, which we might hear about from the Russians, or the Ukrainians would let us know if they actually thought that they had killed anyone. We really do not know what was inside the bunker at the moment, at least in my analysis from the information I have. So at the moment, I would actually have to say I don't really know. I'm a little bit undecided decided on this, because it may have been neither, or it may have been none of those options at all. It may have been ammunition, and it's just incredibly hard to tell. So that's what I'm going to have to go with. I'm going to have to go with the 9% that say that they're undecided, because at the moment I really could not tell exactly what was in that bunker. Still a significant hit, and the fact that 6 ATACMS were used in the strike tells us a lot about this target being a high priority, but we never really know exactly what is inside of these bunkers until Ukrainian intelligence comes out later and lets us know, or the Russians on the ground start to film evidence of what was inside of the bunker, and then that also lets us know as well. But moving on
I
from...
wonder what made them use a HIMARS versus, like, for example, using a different type of weapon, like maybe an ATACMS. I wonder what made them lead to that decision to use that specific missile, because I saw people in the live chat saying maybe it was an ATACMS instead, and all the reports indicate it was HIMARS, about 6 or so, that were launched at the bunker. So, Enforcer, do you have any information of why that might be the case?
The HIMARS is the vehicle, the ATACMS is the missile.
That simplifies it pretty easy.
Yes, like I was thinking, I was sitting there, I was like, well, yes, like the HIMARS carries the ATACMS. It's like you know, you don't kill an enemy plane with an F-18, you kill an enemy plane with a AIM-120 fired off of an F-18. It's kind of something like that. So like I didn't mean for like the awkward pause there. I was about to cough. I was like, you see, like I was about to explain, and I was like, I'm about to cough over here because I'm about to already, but. But beyond that, it was hit with the ATACMS missiles fired from an M142 HIMARS. But with that, we are going to be moving on from the Lgov area and up a little bit north and into the town of Novozhybykov, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, as we were able to hear some very big news that a Ukrainian jet drone of an unknown design actually ended up hitting the oil pumping station within the area, a part of one of the major pipelines that transits through Belarus and into Poland, supplying the largely eastern area of the European Union with natural gas and oil, was stricken today by a Ukrainian drone and ended up knocking the thing out. Pretty impressive to see, pretty nice to know. We do not know the exact variant of the drone, but once again, this is going to be causing severe economical damage for the Russian Federation at large. The Russian Federation is starting to run out of a lot of ways to be able to ship oil overseas in an effective and economical way. We've generally seen that over the past few years, the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which provided a lot of natural gas into the area of Central Europe, was of course knocked out, either due to some unknown form of sabotage or something along those lines. With this in mind, the Russian Federation was no longer able to tap into the major economic base that Central Europe posed, and therefore, for this reason, they were not able to make as much money, and this started to cause more severe economic woes. Recently, the Ukrainians actually made the announcement that they were going to be shutting down the 2 Russian pipelines that travel through Ukraine and into the areas of Slovakia and Romania. These pipelines are also fairly important as well. I believe one of them also drops off into Poland as well. These pipelines are critically important to the Russian economy, and with the Ukrainians shutting these down, this is another death knell to the Russian economy. There are only 6 overland oil pipelines, or natural gas pipelines for that matter, that actually transit through the area of Eastern Europe and into Central Europe, and 2 of them are the Nord Stream pipelines, 2 of them are in Ukraine, and 2 of them are in Belarus. And now with all of that put together, the knocking out of this oil pumping station today within the Bryansk Oblast is a significant loss for the Russian Federation, as this means that they now have only 1 operational pipeline running through Belarus, and that means that they only have 1 out of 6 pipelines operational, continuing to give them money out of the natural gas that is being pumped into the area of Central Europe. This is a death nail for the Russian Federation, because economically their entire economy relies on oil. And Matthew, I'm just wondering, could you tell everyone a little bit more about how much they rely on oil while I go and try and get some water?
Yes. The Russians rely on oil quite heavily, I must say. I'm going to have to stall here for a second because I was reading the chat at the moment, so I was not really privy to the entire conversation. But the Enforcer is making his way to get some H2O, some agua, from the kitchen right now. So he's currently getting that, and I'm currently moving things from the live chat over to the spreadsheet. So I am stalling here and stalling some more while he is back there opening the sink tap to get a little water out of there and putting it in a cup. So this is something that hopefully next time we have prepared before the stream. But he is coming back right now and making his way back. And like Crashin said, whoa, Jack, like, come on, man. This is the worst stalling ever. And I have to agree. I wasn't prepared for this. But anyways, he should be coming back right about now. And so, Enforcer, are you back?
I have returned. The cough medicine only goes so far when you're talking a lot. That apparently is a problem that we might not be able to overcome. But beyond that, folks, big apology. Don't mean to stop the stream again about that, but I'm trying to bear with the cough. I know that a lot of people want news and need to hear news, and a lot of y'all count on this channel to be the place, and that's why we're kind of in a huge rush to be trying to get back on air, even on a Monday, to continue to get the news to y'all, because while I may be having an incredibly bad cough, we have to get the news out to y'all, and also this is our job, so we have to kind of keep it running for all of those reasons. So with that in mind, we are going to be moving on from that pipeline news and on up into the area of the Gulf of Finland, as we were able to hear that the ship that was captured by the Finns just a little while ago, which unfortunately I cannot remember the name of, actually was dragging that thing, and we can actually see that right here. Take a look at that.
Look at that, man. It was dragging it for 100 kilometers. What do you know? That was a long way to drag an anchor right there. That eagle right there was dragging nuts, I guess you could say.
I gotta say, it was dragging them for sure. I gotta tell you, 100 kilometers throughout the entirety of the Gulf of Finland. That is a pretty significant dragage right there for sure. And this actually is what knocked out the underground cable, or the undersea cable, that connected Estonia to Finland. This is something that once again shows that the Russian Federation is using oil vessels to conduct acts of sabotage throughout the area, and this will be making the Ghost Fleet highly suspect on in the future. However, moving on from that news and on into the area of Sevastopol, we were also able to hear that there was a major amount of attacks inside of Sevastopol. And we can see those right here. And you can see the explosions right there. Unfortunately, we did not get any video or picture evidence of this, but the attacks were significant, and we did hear that there was most likely a decent amount of damage. How much damage? We do not know. We are still trying to get that information at this moment, and hopefully we'll be able to get that soon and be able to get a damage report out to all of y'all and let y'all know exactly what was hit inside the port and what kind of damage was actually caused. But moving on from that, now to that area of Sevastopol, we are now going to be moving on into the area of Chechnya, as we were able to hear that a different kind of a fire and explosion was happening inside of Grozny again, as another gas station has been caught on fire and is burning. We do not know if this is a part of the blood feud or not. And really quickly, one second, folks, I'm trying to get my mind back on track here, because trying to stifle my cough takes a lot of my concentration. But
I can tell you, enforcers, I covered this in the short war video earlier today, that this right here, the gas station right in the middle of Grozny, the capital of Chechnya, this thing was caught on fire. We really don't know how it was caught on fire. Some people were speculating it could have been partisans of some sort. It might have been maybe a Ukrainian sabotage attack. We're really not sure exactly how it caught on fire, but it did indeed catch the entire place on fire. And we didn't get to see actually the fire department coming in to take this down and actually put the fire out. And as far as we know, it might actually still be burning to this very moment, and this happened early this morning, so that was sort of like the overview of the entire situation. But once again, like, we just really don't know. Like, it could be attached to that blood feud like you were saying, but right now it's just pretty much all over the place. One thing we do know for certain, though, is there was another very similar gas station fire in Grozny less than a month ago. Like, these are happening pretty regularly for them to be simple accidents, and I know they don't have really good safety protocols, but surely there's probably more something to it than meets the eye, because it seems a little bit suspicious.
it is something that is it is something that is incredibly suspicious. We are not entirely sure if this is connected to the blood feud or not, as this is about the third gas station that has caught on fire inside of Grozny since the blood feud began. And just to give you all a little bit of the statistics that we have, the amount of gas stations that caught on fire in Grozny before the blood feud was, I believe, 0 or 1. After the blood feud, there's been 3. So we do not really know what in the world is going on right now with the gas stations catching on fire, whether this is some sort of an extension of the FSB attempting to get back at Kadyrov for the members of the Duma that he wanted to have arrested and brought to Grozny to stand trial for their attempted assassination on Kadyrov. We're not entirely sure, but here is the video of the fire. We see that thing is just blazing right there. Look at it.
Man, I tell you what, Russians and Chechens alike, they all have like the bad lung problems, I'm sure, because between smoking the packs of Lucky Strikes on a daily basis and then getting this smoke in your lungs, I'm sure that they're probably hacking and yakking like you are.
Man, I'm telling you, that's where I got it from. Like right there. You're watching it. But still, a very interesting thing, and once again, leading us to question a little bit more about exactly what's going on in Chechnya right now with the massive kind of gas fires that continue to happen at these gas stations inside of Grozny. Once again, we do not have a large amount of information to say exactly why the fires started, but considering the massive amount of them that have started since the beginning of the blood feud, we are assuming that there is most likely some sort of government action, some sort of retribution, or maybe even almost a gang war style conflict going on in between parts of the Russian government and those of the Chechen government inside of the Chechen semi-autonomous region. However, one thing is to be said. The Chechens aren't really good at making friends, generally because they have this apt thing of really blowing up and killing people that they're friends with. Look at all the videos of that the Chechens have made with the Russians. You know, those ones that I'm talking about where they hit them with sledgehammers and do other kind of weird things to them that they usually reserve for goats. They do all kinds of bizarre things to different kinds of people. And the most recent group of people that they did something to was the Azerbaijanis. Many people will remember that on Christmas Day, an Azerbaijan Airlines aircraft was shot down by a Chechen ground-based Pantsir S-1 air defense system, and this has caused a great deal of diplomatic upheaval in the area, as the Russian Federation has not issued an official apology for shooting down the aircraft, and it appears that Azerbaijan is trying to do something about it. Here's the speech from the president of Azerbaijan.
Elbette son versiya qara kutular açılandan sonra belli olacaq. Ancaq ilkin versiyalarda kifayət qədər əsaslıdır və faktlara söykənir. Faktlar isə ondan ibarətdir ki, Azərbaycan mülki təyyarəsi Rusiya ərazisində, Grozny şəhərinin yaxınlığında Rusiya tərəfi Azərbaycandan üzr istəməlidir. İkinci, öz günahını etiraf etməlidir. Üçüncü, günahkarları cəzalandırmalıdır. Cinayət məsuliyyətinə cəlb etməlidir. Və Azərbaycan dövlətinə və zərər çəkən sərnişin və ekipaj üzvlərinə təzminat ödəməlidir. Bu bizim şərtlərimizdir. Onlardan biri, birincisi artıq təmin edildi.
So he got his apology already because Putin already did that. He was pretty quick to do that, surprisingly. But he's wanting money to the Azerbaijan government. He's wanting money to the victims. And I can't remember. Did he say he wants money to the airlines too, I heard?
I believe he's wanting everyone to get a little bit of something out of this whole thing. The government, the airlines, the people, the ground that got hit. He wants the farmers in Russia to be compensated for the soil that got burned. He's wanting everyone to get a payout from this whole thing. Don't think the Russians will be able to do that because they're hardly able to finance the war in Ukraine at the moment, and that's kind of eating up all of their government resources. But still, it is something that is once again showing us that there is a diplomatic drift starting to set in between the Russian Federation and really everyone on their southern border in the Caucasus Mountain region. Georgia's not really friends with them at the moment, at least the Georgian citizenry are not. Armenia certainly isn't, and Azerbaijan is not either. It appears as though everyone is starting to turn away from the Russian Federation that's now having to have a high intensity of direct interactions with them. And it is once again showing us that the Russian Federation is a generally insufferable country to work with, especially when they're pretty much your next door neighbor, considering that they literally just shot down a commercial airliner over Chechnya for really no other reason than it kind of looked a little suspicious. I don't even know how the hell that looked suspicious. It was a commercial airliner flying over Chechnya. It's not like that's like some sort of a mystery or anything. There's always commercial flights flying around, but now a lot of people have actually suspended their flights into the Russian Federation. And really quickly, I'm actually going to bring y'all over to Flight Radar 24. Let's see here. 1 second, folks. I'm going to try and get y'all over here. All right. So, this is southern Russia, at least as of right now. And these are all of the active aircraft that are still flying over southern Russia. This is a Belavia Air flying to Minsk from, let's see, don't know where, unfortunately. We'll try and look. This is actually an Aeroflot aircraft, and this is a Cannot tell. But nevertheless, these are the only few aircraft that are now still flying into the areas of southern Russia. Beyond that, pretty much every single aircraft is now avoiding the Russian Federation and flying through Azerbaijan and Georgia to make it to wherever their destinations are. You can actually see that very clearly on the map right here. So now it appears that everyone's avoiding Chechnya, or at least flying over Chechnya, unless if you're a Belarusian aircraft company or a Russian aircraft company.
Isn't it true, though, that the plane that was shot down by the Russian Panzer system, the one that the president was just referring to right there that led to like the deaths of pretty much everybody on the plane, that one was flying right into the middle of a drone strike, wasn't it? That's the reason why it got shot down by the Panzer.
I think that was the story that they gave. I don't really remember ever seeing a drone strike happening during that time. I think that was more so like the convenient excuse that they tried to throw out to make it seem plausible that they did that. I think the actual thing that happened was that they were panicking, they saw something flying above them, they freaked out and they shot it down. Because there's no way to misidentify, especially with the Panzer, at least from what they advertise on the brochure, for them to misidentify a commercial airliner as some sort of an FPV drone. That thing's flying at 30,000 feet. It is a small body, well, it's not a small body, I believe it's a medium body fuselage with twin engines. I mean, it's going to have a very big radar cross-section on a radar of a Panzer S-1 compared to an FPV drone, and it's at such a high altitude, there's no way that you could actually mistake a commercial airliner for an FPV drone. So I think that was more
And also, I don't think they were referring to FPV drones. I think they were referring to the larger drones that Ukraine has, and I don't even think those fly at 30,000 feet, do they? Like the larger Ukraine drones?
Oh no, they get shot down easy at 30,000 feet. They usually were just flying like a couple of hundred feet above the ground at the highest.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So when they gave that like a weird version of the passenger jet flying into the middle of a Ukraine drone strike, and that's why the Russians freaked out and shot it down, that really didn't even make any sense then to me either. But it's just like the drones don't even fly that high. You're shooting at something that's like, what, 30 times the height of a normal drone. It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense at all. It's a pointless story. I don't even think it makes any sense whatsoever. And I think that everyone's starting to realize that at this point as well, because no one's flying over that area of Chechnya or even southern Russia for that matter at all, unless if they're a Russian aircraft company or a Belarusian one for that matter. But we also got to hear that from a little bit further south, things are just not really going well within Central Asia at the moment at all. Not just in Azerbaijan, which technically is actually in kind of Asia Minor for the larger part, which is the area around Turkey and also this kind of northern area of the Middle East. That's technically Asia Minor, but over here within the area of Central Asia, things are also not going well out here. To quickly catch y'all up on a little bit of that whole, like the Wild West of the world kind of drama, basically what's been happening recently is that Afghanistan, after they collapsed and the Taliban took control of the government again, has been getting into a war with pretty much anyone around them for the past few years. They ended up getting into a border skirmish with Iran. They actually ended up shutting off certain dams inside of Afghanistan, which cut off Iran from vital water supplies, and then they ended up getting in a fight over that. In the area of Pakistan right now, they are currently getting engaged in some fights. As many of y'all know, the Khyber Pass is an incredibly unlawful area of the world, known for creating illegal kinds of firearms, and at the moment, it appears that chaos is beginning to descend upon that valley. And at the moment, the Pakistani government is trying to get a little bit of control of this by bombing the Taliban. The Taliban is now responding by invading Pakistan and attacking key outposts near the border, pretty much in effect creating a border war in between the two, and that's what we've been hearing about lately. We don't have a lot of video or picture evidence. Of course, we're largely seeing Pakistan, which is not an incredibly developed, but still nuclear power, fighting a government that literally just crawled out of the caves from the Stone Age to take over the government just a few years ago. So neither side really has access to a lot of personal phones, or really cameras for that point, so I don't really have a lot of video and picture evidence to show of this one, but I can assure y'all it's going down, and boy howdy, is it something. It sounds actually crazy, because what we've been hearing is that apparently, quote-unquote, tactical special forces teams of the Taliban, which I don't know what the hell that would even look like, are crossing the border into Pakistan, and they're attacking small outposts. And when I mean small outposts, there's only like a couple of dozen Pakistani soldiers inside these outposts, but they're attacking them within one centralized area near to Jaman, this little area right here. And I've also heard that there's a little rumor that there may be some stuff going on near Jalalabad and Peshawar, but I can't really confirm that at the moment, so we're not going with that story at all. But beyond that, what they're doing...
The Taliban are sending in Snack Bar Deluxe. Sending men across the border.
Dude, they're sending in Taliban exclusive or something like... I don't even know what the hell they are called. Like
Taliban Premium.
Let me go see if I can show you like these guys. Let's see. Taliban border war. Let me go see if I can find... Yeah, here we go. This might actually show a picture of them. Well, this didn't really age well, did it? Let me go see when this was posted. Wow, this picture was posted in 2022. Here's a group of Taliban border guards. These aren't the special forces, mind you, just want to put that out there. But nevertheless, Taliban says new troops near Central Asian borders will bring stability. The neighbors are not so sure. You know when this article was published? 2022. It's 2 years later, and they've gotten into a border war with just about everyone around them at this point. So it seems as though their neighbors were right. They didn't bring stability, it only brought war.
Yeah, who would have guessed that when you put literal terrorists in charge and you say, oh, let's let the terrorists create an actual legitimate government and pretend like this is going to go well. Of course it's not going to go well. The Taliban are just posing as a government, but they're never going to let go of those true, those fighter roots that they've been doing for literally forever. They're not going to let go of that. They're going to keep on fighting with everybody.
Yeah, let me see if I can find these Taliban special forces. I think these are actually the guys. There was a load of different pictures that were put out of them recently and a video of them actually moving towards the border, but they are a little bit better equipped than normal. Although I will say that this helmet is incredibly small for the guy wearing it, because pretty much his entire forehead is exposed if you see like above his glasses. Like, you got a clear shot straight into his brain. Like, there's probably nothing in there, but you got a clear shot into whatever is in there. So it's like, that's a bit of a small helmet. You can tell, Matthew.
And also, you don't want red earmuffs either. Like, that doesn't seem like to really match with the camo scheme they got going. They've got bright red around literally the person's head.
Man, you know, I actually heard that the South Koreans were going to be sending their special forces to go deal with this. Did you actually hear about that?
No, I definitely did not.
Let's see here. One second.
Like a joke's coming.
Oh yeah, joke's coming. Like, 100% is coming. They're sending these guys.
Oh no, they're sending them in. At least they send in the triangle fellows. At least they have a little decision-making power.
Man, they're going to sit there and say, today we are going to play a game. You have to run in between the Pakistan border guard outposts without getting shot. If you are seen, you're shot. And that's just going to be the game. It's like red light, green light, but there's no red light or green light, and they just have guns, and they shoot you if they see you. I mean, it's a very, very simple game. Probably rules that are comprehensible, at least within this region. But nevertheless, we will most likely be seeing that there will be some kind of a ongoing border skirmish in between the two for some while. I do want to put this out there, though. This is a bit of a side note that's kind of a little important. Small thing, not that big. Pakistan actually has hundreds of nuclear weapons, most of them of the tactical variety. So if the Afghans started to mess around with them too much, there isn't really the possibility, but there is the slight possibility that they could nuke Afghanistan. It's kind of always funny to think about that because, you know, no one ever thinks that Pakistan and India are nuclear armed, but whenever you mess with those two countries, they actually have a pretty significant nuclear arsenal. I believe Pakistan's is actually bigger than China's. And let me go pull that up. Pakistan nuclear.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know that Pakistan had nukes. I thought that was a non-nuclear country.
Let's see. They have 170 warheads as of right now.
Pakistan has 170?
Yeah.
How long have they had those?
Hell, like for 50 years, something like that.
50 years they've had those? Like, where'd they get them from? They developed them on their own, volition, or how'd they get them?
So, basically, we have to go all the way back to the beginning of time, Matthew. Back at the earliest civilizations along the Ganges River. I'm just kidding. We're going to fast forward a little bit, and I'll explain why this happened. So, fast forward to when the British controlled India and Pakistan, and the whole thing was combined into one, and it was called the British Raj. So, at the end of World War II, there had already been a plan for decades at this point that that Britain was going to get rid of India as a crown holding or a colony for the large part and just kind of throw it into independence at some point in the future. And that time came around 1947. A lot of people always say, oh, Gandhi was the one who did that. Not really. Gandhi just kind of like starved himself, and they were already going to be independent anyways. So he starved himself and they became independent like they were going to be. And then he went, oh, look, I did it. And he really didn't do anything, to be entirely honest. But beyond that, the country became independent. But there was a massive cultural difference that existed that didn't really pop up a lot under British rule, because the British, kind of made sure to run a really tight ship in a not really great way, but still it largely kept the tensions under control, at least as kind of like a silver lining of the whole thing. But beyond that, though, Pakistan is a majority Islamic country, India is a majority Hindu country, and that's why the two countries exist today. When they originally split from Britain, they were called India altogether, but a little war broke out in between the Muslim areas of Pakistan in the modern day and the Hindu-controlled areas of India, and that's what actually led to Pakistan becoming an independent country. But from that point on, though, there has been major issues and debates about who controls the Kashmir region, India or Pakistan. Both of them claim complete control of the region, and not only that, both of them have a strong hatred for each other, an insanely strong hatred. So when they sat there and thought, how in the world do we kill the other the best, both sides decided, I know, let's develop nuclear weapons. So they went on their own, out of their way, mind you, considering that they didn't even really have an economy at this point, to both develop their own nuclear weapons development programs, test the nuclear weapons, and then field them against each other. India's and Pakistan's nuclear arsenals do not exist really to fight the rest of the world, like to ward off America or China or Russia. It's literally so that way they can aim them at each other. That's the only reason they have these nuclear weapons, is to destroy each other. Only reason. And so that's why they actually have nuclear weapons. What is interesting, though, let me go see if I can show you the Indian nuclear test. Let's see here. I need to find this picture. I need to find it. Come on. It's got to be here. I know it's got to be here. Hang on, folks. Y'all are not gonna believe this when I show it to you. Let's see. Let's see here. Are you kidding me? Let's see. Wait, hang on. Let me go pull up nuclear weapons test. Hang on, folks. I know I can find this. I know I can find it. Dang, I cannot find it. Beyond that, though, I did read a little bit of a kind of like a book about this one time about their weapons development programs. One thing is interesting. Can't really remember if it was Pakistan or India that did this, but over a certain stretch of ground to the testing range, there was a bit of land that wasn't really passable by anything, car or train for that matter. And so what they did, you're not going to believe this, I forgot which country it was. They took the nuclear weapon, loaded it onto a cart, a ox-driven cart, and with an ox, they just hauled it the rest of the way to the testing range.
Well, that's interesting. I guess nobody would want to mess with it anyway, because otherwise they're going to get, blasted with it and blown up, so they'd probably leave it alone.
Generally, yeah, they left it alone. No one really messed with it that much. I remember seeing pictures of it. I cannot find them right now. If I can find them, I will show them to y'all. I don't think it'll be during tonight's stream, though. But it was still a very interesting time in nuclear developmental history. But the Indians actually called their first nuclear weapon the Smiling Buddha. And then the rest of them were largely derivations of that naming convention. So kind of an interesting thing. But also, Scott Chamberlain said, did the ox survive? Oh, yeah, it did. They unloaded the bomb from the cart and then, got the ox away. Because, look, an ox is pretty valuable, right? So they got it away and then they blew up the nuke. It was an underground test as well, so there wasn't really a above ground explosion. It blew up underground. So that is also something to be included as well. Just a little bit of info for you. But let's see here.
I see Moscow will burn saying that India got their nukes in 1974 and Pakistan got their nukes in 1998. And Google it. And is that true?
Let me go check. I know that India got theirs early on. Pakistan nuclear weapons.
That would mean that Pakistan's had theirs for about 26 years or 27 years or so, which is, I guess, not that long in the scheme of things, but that would be about 27 or so.
Let's see here. So, actually, that would be incorrect. Their nuclear weapons program started within 1972, but the first nuclear test that they ever did was in 1998. So, while there was the first nuclear test in 1998, technically, from what I'm reading, it looks as though they were able to detonate a nuclear weapon in a test from 1984 onwards. For some reason, they didn't. They decided to just detonate one after having them in service for about 14 years in 1998. So technically you're correct, because usually the nuclear test is the kind of like the benchmark to say we have usable nukes. But that's kind of weird, because I'm reading here that apparently they started the development program in 1972, had a somewhat usable or testable nuclear weapon by 1982, could test one by 1984, and then they tested it in 1998. A little bit weird how they did that. I don't know why they waited that long, because usually everyone tries to test them as soon as possible. But still, I guess that's how they did it. Technically, though, you are right, because everyone always considers the rite of passage to have the claim of having a nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapons test must be done. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I know, and thank you for sharing that. But yes, India did have their nuclear weapons at an earlier date. But anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that incredibly well, that whole little side story there. And moving on from that, we also got some very interesting news today as well from inside of the Middle East. Many of y'all will know that the Enforcer channel has largely been a little bit optimistic towards the Syrian interim government. We largely consider it to be a time of hope, at least for the Syrians, because right now there is no determined future for what Syria will look like. The despotic days of the Assad regime are gone, crazily enough, once and for all. They will never return to Syria from what we know. At this point, the Syrian people themselves largely have the ability to be able to decide and carve out their own path in the future, whatever that may look like. We generally understand that it will move down the path of either becoming some form of an Islamic emirate, which isn't really that bad of a thing, or it will end up being some form of a federal republic, which is the best and most optimistic outcome that there is at the moment. A lot of people have been a little bit on the fence as to whether they like the Syrian interim government or not. Some people say that there's no change to be brought from the area and all hope is lost, abandon hope all who enter here. Others are saying that there's a lot of hope to be had inside of Syria, and many great things will come from the region. And we have been able to hear that apparently the Ukrainians are already on board with the Syrian interim government, as they've actually opened official diplomatic relations and opened their embassy today. We will be muting the audio because this specific version of the Ukrainian anthem is actually, crazily enough, copyrighted, but here it is. We can actually see them standing in front of the embassy. Might need a little bit of pressure washing, but beyond that, not bad.
You know, this is a slap in the face to Russia. Like I was saying today on my short war video, once again, like you're saying, though, that embassy is not the best looking embassy in the world, but it'll work. It'll work. But it's good to see that they're raising the Ukraine flag in front of it, because Russia just got ran out of there. And considering that they just got a humongous embarrassment by having to leave the place that they were occupying for quite some time with al-Assad, that's got to be very embarrassing. And now see the Ukrainians literally roll right up after they left and open an embassy with the new government. And now Russia is out.
It's really crazy to think that this happened that quickly. The Russians are out and Ukraine is in. It is largely showing us, though, that everyone that is considering themselves to be in the Western world outside of Israel are giving the Syrian interim government a good running chance to try and survive before we start to have hostile relations with them. The Ukrainians are actually providing free food, for the large part, kind of government subsidized food, to Syria to try and once again garner good favor with them and try and pull them a little bit further on over and into the Western fold, and not towards the Iranian fold that a lot of countries, Russia and Iran included, would like for the Syrian government to move towards in the future. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about today, because some people have said this is a terrible idea. Why in the world would the Ukrainians team up with terrorists, as a lot of people for some reason want to call the interim government terrorists, although they overthrew the terrorist government that had been there for decades. Others are saying that it's an incredibly good move by Ukraine, and is once again showing that the Ukrainians are trying to move towards the Western world and help support self-determining governments really anywhere and everywhere around the world. A lot of people have had many different opinions on this, really, to be entirely honest, but it seems as though there's been a unanimous opinion that has come out of the Ukrainian move here today. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so 72% of the audience said that's a good move by Ukraine by opening up relations with a new Syrian government after the Russians had been ousted and al-Assad got ousted as well, while 10% said Ukraine takes basically whatever they can get and this is as good as it's going to get, and 6% said that's a bad alliance for Ukraine. And it's very interesting that the overwhelming majority said it is a good move because there were a lot of people actually causing an issue about the United States potentially creating new relations with this new government inside of Syria. And once again, the HTS were on a terrorist watch list in the United States for quite some time. And they're recently, I think they might be being considered to take off that watch list. I'm not sure if they're already off of it just yet. Have they been removed from it yet, Enforcer? Real quick, do you know?
I believe they have.
Yeah, if they haven't yet, they probably will be very shortly. The U.S. administration has been talking about removing them. But I think that the fact here that Ukraine is now teaming up with them is showing a lot of people that the West is trying to move into Syria and try to make the best of the situation. And Ukraine basically needs whoever they can get to be able to trade things with economically, because Ukraine needs trading partners desperately. And this is a new place where Ukraine could potentially start trading quite heavily if they could actually make that work. So me personally, I think it's a good move. I think most Western countries should try to go into Syria and try to make the best of it. There's no need to make enemies out of the new government, even though it's not perfect. We need to try to make the best of it. So I'm with the 72%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be with the 72% as well. It is a good move by Ukraine. And here we go. I'm about to be doing this for the rest of the stream. It is a good move by Ukraine. Diplomatically, it's also a good move for the Western world to reach out an open hand to the Syrian government. It is brand new. I also have to say it's a little interesting to me. I just want to throw this out there to some folks because I do not know if the same people are taking this poll that took some of our last polls on Syria, because some of the last polls that we had on Syria before Ukraine got involved were wildly pessimistic. A lot of people were saying that we ought to just go in and wipe all the Syrians out for no reason rather than they're just Syrians. And now that Ukraine's opening an embassy, now it's a great thing and Syria's a good country. And I find that a little bit interesting because we've been trying to get it out there a little bit that the Syrian interim government is brand spanking new. It has nothing to do with Assad. It has nothing to do with any of the groups like ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. It is a completely new entity on the playing field that could go really any direction at this point because it's made up of so many different factions. And we've been trying to make that clear time and time again. And it seems as though countries like the United States, like Ukraine, really like anyone in the Western world, are trying to give them a fair chance. Because here's how I look at it. Maybe they are bad people. Maybe. I have a feeling, I usually like to try and be an optimist. They're probably good people, and they're probably going to do something that'll be all right. Will it turn out perfect? Absolutely not, but it'll still be pretty okay. However, if they end up going the bad route, that's fine. We can just bomb them anyways. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like, that would be my honest opinion on that, because it's like, why bomb them now and lose an opportunity to possibly make them a Western ally? If we don't give it that opportunity, we're missing out on a possible gain. You know, you can always bomb them right now or in the future. So why bomb them now when you could bomb them later if they end up being a hostile country? That's how I look at it.
Also, Enforcer, by the way, I'm personally not a proponent of trying to replicate China's Belt and Road Initiative. That's really not something we should try to strive for in the West, but there is a bit of an economic aspect. If the West can move into Syria, like, for example, Ukraine, the United States, and several other countries, maybe even Britain, if they could form economic relations with Syria and put their economic tentacles into the new government, that would make the Syrian government much, much more pliable by the West to make sure they do stay on the Western side of things, because money is a huge motivator to make sure they can maintain trade if they do indeed start it in quite significant portions with Ukraine. That would be a big motivator to keep them on the West side instead of jumping right back into fighting with literally everybody. That would keep them somewhat stable and give them an economic incentive to stay, pretty much neutral.
Yeah, I would agree. And a lot of people really, may or may not know that, but economics have a lot to do with how a country forms. And trying to get them into a Western economic model has a lot to do with how they will exist in the future. They may end up turning into an Islamic emirate. And that is probably I would be honest with y'all, that's probably the most likely outcome of what's going to happen in Syria. It's going to be an Islamic emirate, but it'll also have a kind of a system similar to the Heavenly Ascension, or the Kingdom of Heavenly Ascension that used to exist within Imperial China, where while it is an emirate, there are specific areas inside of Syria that have their own cultural laws and norms, such as the Kurdish north of Syria, that are still technically a part of the emirate, but they almost govern themselves semi-autonomously, like Kurdish Iraq inside of the northern area around Erbil and Mosul. That might be how it works out. But beyond that, I think that it is a fairly good thing to say that there will be, hopefully, progress to be made inside the Syrian interim government working forward, because it looks as though it's going to turn out okay. And I have seen some people saying some different things about, they threatened Israel. Not really. Like technically, yes, but technically everyone threatens everyone. I mean, technically there's a lot of people here in the United States right now who hate Israel, but that doesn't mean that the United States is threatening to kill Israel. It's just random people talking. The official stance in Syria at the moment, even from Jelani, who is the head of the HTS, which is largely dissolving at this time and really handing over a lot of its power, along with every other faction, to the interim government itself. Jelani even said that they had no intentions of ever conducting hostile action against the Israelis, and even said that they might be a little bit open to possible economic relations with Israel in the future. Not a military relationship, but possibly economic relations. Although that got quickly thrown pretty much to the wayside after the Israelis started to conduct pretty much a bombing campaign throughout all of Syria. Then Jelani said, never mind on that. I think that's not a good idea. We'll just leave them alone, but we want to be left alone by them. That's generally their stance at the moment. And we can't go off of, in secret, this is what they really think. With how diplomacy works, you always have to work off of what people say up front. Actions can show different, but right now, over the weeks, really the month that they've been in control of Syria at this time, we haven't really seen them ever conduct any shooting action against the Israelis at all. In fact, they don't even allow the Iranians to use Syria as a land corridor right now to supply Hezbollah inside of Lebanon. So right now, they're doing pretty good in supporting Western interests, or really just generally being neutral to Israel, which is somewhat in Western interests, although really what's within the priority of Western interests within this area is to create a united coalition to go up against Iran's proxies and the Islamic Republic of Iran itself. Israel largely does that, but if we can get the Syrians on board with shutting out Hezbollah from getting any money or arms smuggled to them from inside of Syria, that is a massive boon. That is about as big as Israel actually directly fighting them. In fact, that's as big because we're pretty much denying their existence by getting Syria on our side, instead of just having to fight them like the Israelis have been doing for decades. So with that in mind, that is an incredibly good thing that we could get out of Syria. That's why I'm saying that, it's a thing that we have to be open about, because people are let's go down the hypothetical. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they actually do want to hurt the Israelis or bomb them or something like that, like Hezbollah or Hamas. That's fine. We can bomb them later. I mean, we don't have to bomb them now preemptively. They can attack Israel, and then there's a great justification. We don't have to be trying to come up with fictitious scenarios like they might do it. We could say they did it, now we're going to get them. That's how I look at it, at least, because that's usually how you want to work. Especially in the Western world, you always want to work from a defensive standpoint in a war. Preemptive actions are very rare, and usually you have to have an incredibly good justification for it. Like the invasion of Iraq. They were creating weapons of mass destruction. That was an incredibly good justification to take rash action at the time. But there's very rare, very seldom any kind of actual justifications that you can give beyond that for preemptive action. That's why with the Israelis getting attacked, you can say they attacked Israel, now we're going to do something for them. And it's a great justification at that point, because who can argue against it? Because when Hamas went out and conducted the October 7th massacre, there was no good argument against taking action against Hamas. they just killed 2,000 people. You know, there was no way where you could go, well, they might do something in the future, and then it seems kind of questionable and it's open for debate. There was nothing open for debate on October 7th. It was a massacre. There had to be an armed response. And so that was a very good justification. That's really how it's kind of supposed to work. Unfortunately, the 2,000 people had to die, but that's largely how the Western world works, is that we always fight defensive wars because there is a very good justification for them at that point. Although I do not think that the Syrians would ever have the ability, even with the interim government, to ever conduct an armed attack on Israel that would produce that many casualties in a single instant. I just don't think they would even have the military abilities at this point to do something like that. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well about Syria, because it's a very interesting topic, especially considering that an interim government is something seldomly seen in the world these days. You just never see stuff like that. But anyways, moving on from that and down into Israel, we also got to hear about some missile interceptions happening in central Israel right now. And that's the end of the clip right there. But very interesting to see, and good to know that they were shooting down Houthi missiles. Also, I see some people are trying to misinterpret things. I wish I had the lung capacity and also the ability to not cough to get out a very long explanation on this, but I will make it very short. Some people just said, oh my god, did you just justify the invasion of Afghanistan? No. I tried to explain why that preemptive action was justified at the time. You see, for folks whose brains have curves in them and they're not smooth, there was actually at the time a pretty good justification for going into Iraq. We said they were making weapons of mass destruction. The CIA said we went to Iraq and we saw that they're making nuclear weapons. So then we went, we need to deal with this now. And we need to go in there and invade them and clear out the nuclear weapons and also overthrow Saddam, because this is a dangerous and unstable government. At the time, in 2003, when we invaded Iraq, it was entirely justified. Later on, in hindsight, not so much. But at the time, it was justified. You see, when you look at history, the crazy thing is that it's so easy to judge everyone and treat them like an idiot living in the modern day, now knowing how the story ends. Kind of like how in Squid Game Season 2, there was like this whole thing with this guy, and you'd be like, oh my god, how does the main character not know? But that's because you're watching as a viewer, and that would be really stupid to assume that a character inside the show would know what you know, because you're just a person watching the show, and for the plot, you know everything. Kind of like how with history, you know the plot. So, at the time, very justified. Later on, not so much. That's usually everything in history. Like right now, a lot of people want to invade Iran because we're hearing that they're making a nuclear weapon. We could do that, and then there might not be any nuclear weapon in Iran. And then we went into a whole war, and it wasn't really a good idea in the long run. At least for now, it would be justified. Later on, probably not. Maybe not. Who knows? It would depend on what we would find inside of Iran. But that is...
Isn't it true, though, that at the time, though, like the U.S. government knew that there was no nuclear material there, and they simply, I don't know if they just manufactured the like justification out of thin air or what they got, but apparently, from what I know, there was no evidence at all that there was a nuclear weapon or anything of that sort there. But in contrast to the modern day in Iran, we do know that they are developing material. Like we've seen that there has been independent verification of it, and that's not a mystery at all on this one. So wouldn't that be a big distinction?
Well, what is actually in what is interesting about that is that Iran at one point actually did have a nuclear research center and actually had nuclear research reactors inside the country. Get the hell out of here, Wikipedia. So technically, they actually did at multiple different times attempt to develop nuclear weapons and nuclear grade materials. But the thing is that the CIA sent over a couple of people to go over there and confirm that they were trying to do that in the early 2000s. They went to Iraq, they sat around, from what we know, didn't really find any proof, and then they just, went back to Langley and said, oh, it's happening, and then that's what they told the president, and then the president acted on that information. So the specific agents that were sent over to Iraq knew that there was no truth to it at all because they just fabricated everything. But as far as the president was concerned, at least according to how the story goes, the president was just working off of the intelligence that the CIA had given him. And the CIA said there was yellow cake uranium inside of Iraq, and it looked like they were making a nuclear weapon. And at least historically, based off of the past, there were multiple times that they had made nuclear research reactors. There was multiple times that they had gotten access to radioactive materials. So it wasn't entirely out of the question that this could be something that they were going to do again. In fact, at a time, the Israelis actually had to blow up in a pretty crazy air raid an Iraqi nuclear research reactor, I believe, in the mid-90s, if I'm correct, somewhere around 1994 to 1995. So it's not at all out of the question, at least at that moment, that they were going to do something like that.
Interesting. Honestly, to me, on that one, I would personally say that they knew at the time there was not any justification for it. I know they came up with the whole story about the informant from Iraq feeding, the government a bunch of BS. To me, it seems like that's too good sounding to be actually true. Like, it sounds too convenient. It sounds to me like they were just itching to go to war in Iraq, and that's what we did. On the other hand, for example, if we went to war with Iran today, we would actually have a justification for that, although that would be a lot more risky because they actually have nuclear weapons right now, so that would be apparently very risky because, well, allegedly they have a nuclear weapon. We're really not sure just yet, but they might have one. But there has been proof, Israel's gotten the proof, we've gotten the proof, that Iran is enriching uranium. They've been doing it, and that's why they're trying to conceal it, because they know they're up to it, and they don't want the entire world to know just how much they're trying to enrich. So I don't know. The Iraq situation to me was not justified at all, even back then and also today.
Yeah, I would say maybe not. We bested them in the Gulf War, and I think that was good enough. And if anything, we could have just done precision airstrikes to destroy the nuclear research facilities if we were that concerned about them. But really, I'll be honest, though, here's my take. The invasion of Iraq was not as bad as people make it out to be nowadays. What happened after the invasion of Iraq during the U.S. occupation of Iraq was when things went down the shitter. And give me a minute to explain really quickly, because there was this whole controversy that went on with it, and this is why everything fell apart, and this is why the region descended into complete chaos for about the next 10 years. So when we invaded Iraq, we invaded with an incredibly large amount of troops, and a huge amount of troops. It's about as many as we actually had during the Gulf War of 1991. The problem was that we invaded really quickly, and we took over Iraq. And when we did that, some genius, now, I believe he was the secretary. I don't think he was the Secretary of Defense at the time. I believe he was the Secretary of State. Said, "What do we have all those troops over there for? This is costing us so much money. Bring them home." So we brought home like 2/3 of the U.S. soldiers that were in the invasion back home immediately. So the thing was, just to explain this really quickly, there is a certain amount of soldiers to civilians that you're supposed to have in an occupational setting to make sure that you're able to maintain law and order and control and stop insurgent forces from popping up. And so what we did is that we withdrew pretty much everyone who was doing that job at that point, and we just left these ammunition depots and caches throughout Iraq wide open. So the fanatics of the Iraqi government that were called the Fedayeen, which wore like these weird Darth Vader helmets and everything, they were ordered around by Uday and Qusay, who were Saddam Hussein's kids, they were just fanaticized to the point they were going to keep the fight going even if the Iraqi government under Saddam didn't exist. And so they went into these unguarded, empty ammunition depots, and they just started to stock up. And then they went to war with the United States military. That's why the Battle of Fallujah happened in 2005 to 2007. That's why really ISIS got a foot and started to grow in the region later on. That's why all of the chaos after the invasion of Iraq happened, is because we went in and then we half-assed it after we went all the way in. That was the issue, because if we had actually gone off of a Grenada occupation model where there was one soldier for every 25 civilians, we would have been able to hold down Iraq, and none of the shitstorm that happened for the next 20 years would have never happened, because no one would have ever even been able to get the weapons to be able to hold the place down. Everyone knows that, because also someone said, LOL, were you alive then? No, I listened to all the people who were alive then, who were there, and were talking about it and complaining about it to the Congress, to the military, in the news. Loads of people were complaining about that. Like, people who actually knew how the military worked were complaining about that and said, this is a bad idea because there's not enough soldiers over there to hold this place down and really police it properly, because occupations are not about winning battles. It's about policing the civilians properly and making sure to keep law and order intact without the existence of an actual government. That was what happened, and that's why it all went to shit afterwards for the next 20 years. If we had actually gone over there and just committed to it and kept those soldiers there, things would have turned out a lot better, a lot differently, as a matter of fact. The Assad regime may have even collapsed due to it just being encircled largely at that point by generally strong Western-aligned countries. I mean, they would have been surrounded on all sides by Western-aligned countries: Israel, Jordan, Iraq, and Turkey. But nowadays, because of how we did things in the early 2000s, Now we have a lukewarm Iraqi government because they went through the terrors of ISIS and then they had to kind of, go, well, we don't want to piss off these people too much because they're still out there somewhere. So we're going to be a little bit more moderate instead of all in being pro-Western, because if we go all in being pro-Western, these people are going to pop up again and start doing crazy stuff. But anyways, I hope that does explain that well, because that's going to be my hot take of the night. That wouldn't have gone as badly. I mean, hell, hardly anyone would have been wounded or killed, because there would have been no armed insurgents going around setting up IEDs and VBIEDs and ambushing people if we had been able to police the place properly from 2003 to 2006. If we had been able to hold it down for those 3 years, everything would have passed over and it would have been fine. But anyways, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. But with that, it is time for us to move on into some questions, because we actually have some interesting ones. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving into our first Super Chat segment, our first Super Chat of the night is going to go to a channel legend. It is none other than BC Skyman, the channel legend who puts in a very generous $60 donation. And thank you very much, BC, for the support yet again. And he says, Happy New Year's, Enforcers, and Happy New Year's to you, BC, and the LSA. He said, here is for the Cough Medicine Fund, and we appreciate everything you guys do, and chat question, please.
And thank you. Thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman, and thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, and I wish you a happy new year as well. It's crazy to think that we've made it nearly 3 years running this channel. Here very soon, it will be the 3rd year of running the channel. We've been saying it's been 3 years for a while. Actually, no, it is already 3 years. I think here soon it'll start moving into its 4th year. And so I have to say thank you so much for wishing us a happy new year, BC Skyman, and also thank you so much for supporting the Cough Medicine Fund. I took Mucinex Fast Max, I think it is. You have to take 2 pills every 4 hours for that to work, and it's working incredibly well. Well, at least that's what Matthew could see before the show, but now that I'm talking a lot, it is really having to kind of like work for its money right now, because I think my throat's getting so agitated even the cough medicine really can't help it. But still, thank you so much once again for support, and I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much for appreciating everything we do, because sometimes we drag ourselves through broken glass just to get the news out to y'all, kind of like it feels tonight, because every time I cough, it feels like my brain is pushing on the sides of my skull and it's about to explode. But still, thank you so much once again. And also, to take a live chat question, I want to make sure. Let's see. Here's an interesting one, Matthew. I found this one straight out of the chat right here, right now. It's from Joshua Wilson. It's actually a differing opinion. This is a logical fallacy, Joshua Wilson says, over the claim that the Iraq invasion at the time had a good justification. If Iraq was justified, then invading Iran is justified, but we know it's not. Either having or developing weapons of mass destruction is justification, or it's not. Having weapons of mass destruction or attempting to develop them is a good justification to invade someone. If we have clear and undeniable evidence that someone is developing a weapon of mass destruction, that is always a justification for preemptive action. Because in those kinds of situations, there is no time to conduct a diplomatic game. There's no time to try and conduct concessions or negotiations, because that is stalling time for those people. And if they end up creating a nuclear weapon or any other kind of a weapon of mass destruction, it's over at that point. They're going to have it, and there's going to be no way to get it from them, because now they have all the power. They have a nuclear weapon. There's no way to get a nuclear weapon from someone once they have them. So it is always a justification in the Western world, one of the very few, for a preemptive war if someone is developing a weapon of mass destruction. That's why I'm entirely behind armed action on the United States' behalf against the Islamic Republic of Iran, to destroy their nuclear weapons abilities and maybe even debilitate the government inside of Iran as well. This is a time where we cannot joke around. Weapons of mass destruction are incredibly dangerous, and not having a very strong footing on this will result in nuclear proliferation, which is an incredibly dangerous thing, because every single unstable country on the earth at that point will have a nuclear weapon, and if it looks like their government's tanking, they might not even need a justification. They might fire the nuclear weapon at someone else. Might just be us. then we have to suffer the consequences of a weak government in another country that had nothing to do with us. We have to stop nuclear weapons, or really any kind of major weapons of mass destruction, wherever they may be forming, if they're not a part of the signer treaties of the non-proliferation pacts or articles, for that large part. If those countries are not listed, which Iran is one of them, they need to be stopped from having a nuclear weapon. And that's why I say that if the United States started an armed conflict with Iran and said that their justification was to destroy their ability to produce weapons of mass destruction, I actually would be behind it. And that's why I say, looking in hindsight, I get why they did what they did in Iraq. Because at the time, they were being told by the intelligence groups that there was weapons of mass destruction being developed there. And going off of that info, it's a very clear and justified next step to say, well, we got to stop that. I get that. Like, it turned out that it was really overhyped and overplayed after the fact, but at that time, when that decision was being made, they were looking at a very similar thing to what we're looking at with Iran. And so that makes a lot of sense when you look at it that way, and that's why I say, across the board, preemptive armed action against a country creating a weapon of mass destruction is one of the few times that preemptive armed action is justified, or really offensive armed action for the large part, because beyond that, really the only armed action we want to take in the Western world is defensive action. We never really want to be an offender or anything along those lines. We always want to operate as defensively as much as we can. The Western world is prosperous. We have plenty of food. We have plenty of resources. We really have no needs. We only have wants, and wants are nothing to really fight over or try and conduct a offensive war of conquest over. It's just pointless. So with this in mind, that's why I say, sorry everyone, that was a pretty nasty cough right there, but that's why I say we ought to just sit here, be the major trading and military power we are, and that just beckons people to not mess with us, because we have plenty of money, everyone wants to trade with us, and we also got the guns to back it up that if they do mess with us, they are going to regret it. So largely defensive off the bat. Very few times should we ever conduct an offensive war, and one of the few times that we should is when we have undeniable proof that they're creating a weapon of mass destruction. And so with that, I hope that addresses that live chat the best I can, at least in my opinion. And Matthew, I'm going to go get another cup of water. And what do you think, Matthew, about that whole thing, about the justifications of offensive versus defensive wars?
I say only going defensively. You can't go wrong being defensive, but you can go bad wrong being offensive. Because if you decide to go in, for example, to Iraq with very, very little evidence, and in fact, with the evidence that you have is very shoddy, and you try to go in there and invade, it never really ends up really well, and that's kind of the way it went. So it's always good to be on the right side of things, on the right side of history, and going only defensively when you have the proper justification, or otherwise the situation probably will go south for you. That's just typically the way it goes. Go ask Russia about that. It went south for them as well going into Ukraine with no justification either. And that's pretty much the way it goes for everybody that does that. So no, me personally, I don't support that, and I don't recommend it to any country, especially us.
So you're saying that if Iran is developing a nuclear weapon right now, we ought to just let them keep doing that?
Well, that's different. If there is a justification and proof of that, that would be defensive at that point. That would not be offensive necessarily. I know some people are going to say, well, you can make the argument that it would be offensive if you're going in and stopping them from doing something in the future. But the catch is, Iran is actively making nuclear threats against the West. They are actively saying that once they have it, or if they have it, they're not even confirming or denying whether or not they have it or not, but they're saying that they might just use it. And to me, that makes it defensive.
Well, let's just suppose that that is the case. However, the way I look at offensive or defensive is entirely based off of the martial realm, not the diplomatic realm, because a lot of people say all kinds of rhetoric in the diplomatic realm. Like we'll say stuff in America like we ought to glass Iran, and the Iranians could take that as a threat to justify their development of a nuclear weapon, and then that doesn't really work out too well. Like, as far as defensive or offensive goes, to me, it means someone has to attack you to then respond. Like with, for example, that one thing that happened in New York City in 2001 that was really like a watershed moment in this country, if you remember. We used that as a justification to say, we're going to go get the people who did that. That's why we're invading Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is harboring these people. That's why we went and did that. And so Afghanistan, in a sense, is a defensive war, because we had a justification to say, we're going over there because the people who did this are in there and Afghanistan isn't handing them over. Also, really quickly, Well, I mean, I thought it was I thought it was interesting, but with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and I hate to say, but what I said over text because the enforcer read it while he was on the air was I think we might want to move on because I'm not sure if the enforcer is going to be able to hold out much longer. And while that is an interesting discussion, we need to make sure that we can finish the news out and also the questions as well. But moving on here to our next super chat, this one goes to none other than Andy L, a longtime channel legend as well, who throws in the largest super chat of the night, which is a $100 donation.
Dang.
Thank you very much, Andy, for that massive support. He said, I too have those sinus issues. No worries, it's that time of year, and long live the LSA.
Hey, thank you so much for the massive support, Andy L. It is getting worse as time goes on, and my throat just can't handle it. Like, it's hurting it way too much. I can even feel it through the medicine I took. It's ripping it apart. But I do thank you so much for the support. And it is that time of year. I've never been affected by this, though, running the show, and it's incredibly annoying because the options that we have is I either keep talking every night and keep making it worse, and then I have this forever, which would be like living in hell, or we take time off, and then people stop showing up because we become irregular. So those are kind of the issues that we're faced. And I know a lot of people will be like, take all the time you need, but there are some really crass people out there. Well, I've had to deal with a couple of them tonight in the chat where they'll be like, stop being a wuss. Like I can just just power through a unstoppable cough and just monologue. Like, it's like, that's just stupid. Like, I don't even know where those people are coming from. I'm gonna have to be just flat out rude on that. That's stupid. Like, I'm battling through to get on a show and tell someone the news, and they're gonna be a spoiled Karen about it and then complain that I'm coughing. It's like, that's just dumb. But beyond that, hopefully we can power through, because we want to make sure to keep getting the news out. And I think this is just going to keep... I thank you for the support. I hope that addresses that well. And Matthew, was that the last one?
So we have one more super chat to get to, and this one goes to Jordy Feravan Laroven, who puts in a very generous $55 donation. And thank you very much as well, Jordy, for supporting the channel through these very hacking times. And Jordy says, Happy New Year in advance, and Happy New Year to you as well, Jordy. He said, thanks for the great work this year, and on to the next one.
Hey! Thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll have a great one next year. And thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next pieces of news. I'm going to have to start moving through them quick, folks, because I'm going to just start coughing worse. And so with that, we got to hear that an arrest warrant was issued for Yoon Suk Yeol. Very big news. Moving on from that, moving on, India... One second, folks. Moving on to Ukraine, air defense action. Here's the clip.
Damn, that's a bright flashlight, by the way. That is like a freaking, 1,000 lumens. I guess that wouldn't give your position away at all, but that is a lot of air defense going on out there, man. That is crazy looking.
Yeah.
Один кілометр від нас.
Someone says the bat light. It really is. It's like the Batman light where it's like Robin or somebody are being reflected in the light up in the sky. It's kind of like that.
Also,
Mick Rat said, have you guys considered some text-to-speech? Oh, no, we would never do that. That would be horrific.
That's also a violation of YouTube's TOS. Our account would be deleted for using it. Good idea, though.
Да.
That's the end of that clip. Moving on from that into the next one, location unknowns. We were able to see Alpha Special Forces Group. Take a look, really cool.
That's pretty cool right there. I like that, man. They got the nice guns with the silencers too. I like that. Or suppressors if you want to be fancy.
Man, really impressive stuff. Moving on from that, hopefully I won't be coughing that badly here. We also got to see that a Russian prisoner was being exchanged today. It was one of the biggest ones of the war. And interestingly enough, the guy looks like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. I've never watched the show, but I know the memes. So if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But here's the guy. His glasses are thick enough that they might qualify as bulletproof glass.
Травух Николай Владимирович, 22.03.1983 года рождения, 9 месяцев.
Какое у вас зрение?
Минус 17, минус 16.
That dude better be seen in 3D for those glasses. But I'm glad he's out, though.
Man, this guy's glasses are so thick he's seeing the future. I don't even know how the hell you can get glasses that thick. They went down to the damn glass mine, dude. Well, not the glass mine, but the glass blowers, and they said, "Yeah, we want one that's thick enough it'll stop bullets." I cannot believe that. It's crazy. I've never seen glasses like that before. But we also got to see a Russian drone getting shot down by a Ukrainian with a shotgun. Check this out. And look at that action. Kaboom. Boom, right there. Takes it down, throws out a rope with a magnet attached, pulls back a drone. It's like fishing, but better.
Look, he's showing a demonstration. He said, here's a drone, here's a shotgun. Guess what's going to happen next?
Man.
One drone, one shotgun.
Man, it's like some sort of a math formula. One drone plus one shotgun equals carnage or something like that. But moving on from that, we also got to see a Ukrainian tank getting a tow. Here it is. Pretty neat. Moving on from that, we also got to see the Russian casualty report as well. And it was incredibly high.
Damn, it was very high today. And also, let's see here. Let's see the commentary notes from Ms. Deese on the side to give us some more insight here. It looks like 2010 personnel is the third highest daily loss. And the December total has surpassed November by over 2,000 and will be over 49,000 in total. So that is very big losses right there. And I wonder what caused it to get that high today. I don't know if it was that command bunker. I don't think they actually counted those in today's losses probably because it just happened today. But maybe so, maybe not, but these losses are looking pretty massive. Zero Bobcats, sadly, but Enforcer, tell us more if you can.
The losses are high. 2010 troops wounded, killed, 22 APCs, 141 trucks, 7 tanks, 44 artillery, 31 drones. Really good day. The Ukrainians are holding strong. Moving on from that into the next clip, Northern Front, near Sevastopol, Russians are getting hit with grenades. Check it out.
Man, getting hit with these grenades. It's a bad day when you get smashed with a grenade, you know?
Man, it's impressive.
That was even a red grenade. Ah. Oh my. Crazy. The Ukrainians have this set up to where they literally have like a display on the side that shows you like the rotation of grenades they have actually on the drone, like how many they've actually deployed or not. That's kind of cool.
It is pretty cool.
I mean, it's good, but you don't have to get that choked up about it. I mean, it's not that bad.
Yeah, funny. And that's the... This is about to piss me off. We're on to the next clip where we got to see an air defense system getting knocked out as well. When you see it's a Tor M2, they drop a grenade, and it hits on the roof.
Oh. And he is down and out now. Look at that. That Tor is no more. It got tore up.
And we now see them hitting some Russian positions.
And if complain, I was the first of that joke. I said that tour got tore up first. Come on, man. Give me my credit. Give me my credit. And also, Dumb Wabbit said, when Enforcer Matt says, "Oh my," he sounds exactly like George Takei. I know, that's who I'm imitating, by the way, because it was so ridiculous how the guy said that. That's why I imitate him, because it's goofy, so that's why I say it.
I wish I could do it right now, but
I'll do it for you. Oh my.
Oh my. That was all right. Oh, dang. And that's the end of that clip. Very nice to see. Good action right there. Moving on down to Sevastopol, it's also got to see them firing at the Russians in the fog. Here's the clip.
And the mud. Look at that mud.
Man, Rasputin's season.
Someone it's gotta suck if a track pops off or something in this type of mud and it's all caked up all over the tank like that. It's gotta suck trying to change that.
Yeah.
That would also suck to be on the receiving end of this too. Just see a big ass shell flying towards you out through the fog.
Man, I wonder what that actually looks like on the other end.
Probably looks very bright and probably very heavy.
Also, certain death I'll have to see on that one, because the coughs hurt a lot, because I'm coughing so hard it feels like my brain's pushing on my skull each time, and also it wears out my voice really badly. You can probably hear that, so I don't know.
Tomorrow's New Year's anyway, so it'll probably be a low night regardless. So, you know, regardless of the cough, you'll probably end up, you know, not running one for that reason alone, because most people are going to be out shooting fireworks.
Yeah, that's true. Also, someone said Delsum can help. Delsum's the first thing I took. Delsum sucks horrendously. Did not help at all. The Mucinex thing kind of helps, but after talking for an hour, it gives out. Like, I think right now, whatever this is, talking for an hour agitates my throat too much, and it just ran into that tree right there. But it just I cannot handle talking for longer than an hour, or I just start insanely coughing, and I got it under control for now. Hopefully, I'd say that, and I'm about to start coughing again, and then I'm going to be coughing all night, probably going to get no sleep, then I got to get up tomorrow and try and recoup, and this is going to be like hell on earth. I think it'd just be better, to be entirely honest, if we take off until I'm better, instead of being like a Victorian-era chimney sweeper where it's just endless sickness, and, you know, just, it's not going to be good in the long run.
I kind of like the Victorian era myself. It was a good time in history, the Victorian era. A time of suffering and pain.
Now see, we're firing the coaxial machine gun.
Oh, sound like somebody's maybe returning fire in the distance.
Drew Kelly asked, how many shells does one of these typically hold? Yeah, usually somewhere up in the 40s, somewhere around 42, I believe. 42 shells fully loaded.
Also, Crashin said in the live chat, maybe extended short war summaries in the meantime. That might be the answer, because I'll be perfectly honest, like, I'm not even going to try to pretend. I can't run the stream for 3 hours by myself. That's nearly impossible. I'm not a talker like that. I pretty much condense the news down to as light and compact as it is in the short war videos, and I might be able to drag it out for maybe like 40 minutes to an hour, but that would be stretching it, because I don't have like the highly detailed knowledge Enforcer has about each individual vehicle. I know of them, but I can't go into certain specs quite like the Enforcer does. So sadly, I probably won't be able to like fill in the streams on that. So it'll probably end up being like more extended full videos instead.
Also, Matthew, something's going on with your mic. I can hardly hear you.
Anybody else hear me? Hello?
It's like you're talking in a bubble right now. That's the end of the clip right there. And moving on from that, and into the next one, we also got to see them driving through town. Also, Matthew, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello. Hello.
Oh, it sounds like the audio fixed itself too. We also get to see an armored vehicle. Here you go. Here's a clip.
Короче, проехался я на такой вот штучке. Спартан. В нем был бензиновый двигатель. Его поменяли на дизельный. Тяги в нем как таковой нема. Ничего в нем нема, просто брони нету, но у него была единственная нормальная скорость. И поменяли на дизель, бо более так практично, ми ж на солярки всі їздимо. Буду говорити на українській. От що, сіверська залишилась, подивіться. Вон один. Місний чувак собаку тільки вигуляє. Мертвый город. Вообще, эмоций ноль. Вся бронемашина, бля, дарит 0 эмоций.
And that's the end of the clip. Moving on, we got to see more Russians getting hit. Here's a clip.
And these Russians are getting smashed. These are enemy armored vehicles that we're seeing here in the video of interesting sort. What the hell is this even?
It's
I couldn't
infrared.
even tell what that was. No, I mean, I know it's infrared, but I'm talking about the vehicle. Looks like a barn, like, you know, like the tank barn thing.
Might be.
Whatever it is, it's getting smashed, so it's not living too long. Oh, and what do we have here? A little something. Oh.
Also,
Oh
everyone's,
my, and a little something turned into nothing real quick.
everyone's saying, go to the doctor. I did, and they told me I'm perfectly fine and healthy. Yay. We love the doctor.
Go to a different doctor.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, because I don't think that one knew what they were talking about. Moving on from that, down the line, also get to see M777 firing in the area around Pokrovsk. Here's a clip.
That's got the Aztec whistle of death probably attached to the end of it. What was that sound, though?
It was the sound of air being pushed around by the explosion of the gun, really the echo, kind of. But moving on from that, we also get to see more Russians getting slammed. That's apparently too spicy. Moving on, 68th Jaegers down near Southern Front. Take a look. Really cool. In the trenches. Really neat. Moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see a Russian assault being repelled near Velika Novosilka. Muting the Aztec whistle.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. They brought in the Aztec music right behind the whistle actually going off on that gun.
When you see the
Hey, look, it's another one of those shed barn things. It's crawling through the battlefield again. They're apparently like putting those out in mass.
And yeah, it looks like they are. Man, I think we're gonna have to just round this thing out and get to the speech. Honestly,
You do what you gotta do, man.
I'm telling you, I can't even talk anymore. We're going to be rounding this clip a little short. We're just going to be moving on to the speech and getting into the question segment. So without further ado, here's the speech.
Speech, give me
Бажаю
speech.
здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Сьогодні хороший день. Ми повернули додому з російського полону ще 189 наших хлопців. Це воїни Збройних сил, Національної гвардії, захисники Маріуполя та Азовсталі. Наші прикордонники, 2 цивільних. Я дякую всій команді, яка займається обмінами. Дякую Об'єднаним Арабським Еміратам за посередництво. І, звичайно, я вдячний усім нашим воїнам, які поповнюють обмінний фонд для України. Це найголовніше. Ми маємо повернути усіх наших людей з полону, усіх воїнів та цивільних, кожного, хто чекає на повернення. Будемо це робити і надалі. Підписав указ про призначення уповноваженої із захисту прав наших воїнів та членів сімей військових. Ольга Решетилова, відома українська правозахисниця, буде займатися зараз підготовкою законопроекту про військового омбудсмена. Таку інституцію маємо створити, і це не просто, щоб була одна людина, треба системну роботу, щоб у омбудсмена був апарат, всі реальні можливості впливати на ситуацію і допомагати. І дуже важливо, щоб кожен наш військовий відчував це і справді реально звертатись за підтримкою і отримувати її. Що саме та як саме має робити військовий омбудсмен? Правильно будувати за участі наших воїнів. І прямо їх про це запитати. І ми це робимо на платформі Армії+. Ми запускаємо опитування про військового омбудсмена. Я прошу кожного нашого солдата, кожного офіцера сказати, якими мають бути пріоритети. Сьогодні ж є рішення, яке допомагає нашій армії ставати більш сучасною та реалізувати досвід оборони зараз, досвід цієї війни. Ми спростили отримання офіцерських звань солдатами та сержантами із бойовим досвідом. І це правильні соціальні ліфти для армії. Сьогодні ж я хочу подякувати команді Міністерства закордонних справ України та Мінагрополітики за візит нашої делегації в Дамаск, в нову Сирію. Очікую на доповідь міністрів про перемовини, про перші результати. І це лідерство України, це швидкість України в зовнішній політиці, саме те, що може дати необхідний плюс. Можемо допомогти відновити стабільність Сирії після багатолітнього російського втручання. І це обов'язково допоможе нам відновити мир для себе. Буде правильним відновити наші дипломатичні відносини з Сирією, нашу економічну співпрацю. І я дуже розраховую, що Сирія після Асада поважатиме міжнародне право, так, як Асад не міг і не хотів, був не самостійним, залежним і просто не розумів, що таке поважати свій народ та міжнародну спільноту. І ще одне. Сьогодні є вагомі пакети підтримки від Америки для України. Пакети на кілька мільярдів. Це те, що посилить фронт вже найближчим часом, допоможе нам стримувати російські штурми і зможе підтримати Україну в збереженні життів. Я вдячний президенту Сполучених Штатів, Конгресу, обом партіям, обом палатам та кожному американському серцю, яке хоче, щоб для свободи у світі було більше простору. Слава Україні!
And Herom Slava.
And Herom Slava. And with that, we're moving on to the next segment. What do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving into our final segment of the night. It is now time for the most highly anticipated segment of the stream, which is the questions segment. We have one more poll to get to, and the current poll that's running says, today, Russia rejected the Ukraine peace plan proposed by the incoming U.S. administration, and what are your thoughts? So 49% said peace talks will never happen, while 31% said Russia will give in eventually, and only 6% said Ukraine will give in eventually. And honestly, I'm really with the 49%. I'm beginning to think that peace talks between Russia, the U.S., and Ukraine will probably never happen. And it sounds like with the foreign minister, it was Lavrov, who actually rejected the peace plan, which was being proposed by the administration, which is coming into office on January the 20th. It sounds like they're not even making headway even before the negotiations start. So that indicates that it's going nowhere really fast. And really, I think the peace talks are probably never going to actually happen. It would probably be a pipe dream to think otherwise. And we kind of knew that the whole time. But it looks like many other people are starting to wake up to that and realize that Ukraine has to keep fighting for its survival because Russia does not really want peace. But Enforcer, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd agree with the 50%. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so that was our last poll to address of the night. So we are now moving on to our super chats yet again. And our first one here is going to go to Glock Glock, who's there? LSA, who's of course a longtime channel legend and threw in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Glock Glock, for that very generous support as well. And also, Happy New Year to you. And they said, what spend announcement is Zelensky going to make tomorrow about the U.S. providing support? And LSA, bless the warriors of Ukraine. And I think you were referring to my tweet, by the way. I actually put that one out yesterday and said Zelensky was going to be making a large announcement today about a massive aid package being announced by the U.S. For the Ukrainian government. And that actually was announced today. It was honestly not as big as I was expecting. It was only $1.25 billion. And when I say only, like I'm not minimizing the amount of support. That is a lot of support, by the way, of course, coming from the U.S. taxpayer. But I was expecting something maybe a little bit bigger than that, because that's usually actually a typical size of the aid package that is usually announced every 3 or 4 months or so. And to me, I thought Zelensky was going to announce something like maybe an alliance or some type of security guarantee from the West, but we did not hear that today. So that's all we know at the moment, sadly. So I wish I had some more information, but that's just about it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would thank you for the support. I would say it is it was a small package, like Matthew said. It was 1.25 billion. It wasn't really a lot, but still good to hear that it was provided. Still not like a $60 billion spending package or anything major, but the war will keep going, and there will be support in the upcoming administration for the war. I'm fairly certain of that. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, good night to BC Skyman, by the way. He said, good night, everyone, and Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to you, BC. And also, we will probably see you on maybe Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe, but definitely on a short war video. But Happy New Year to you. And also, moving on to our next one here, we have one from Purple Gerbil, who throws in a $35 donation. And thank you very much as well, Purple Gerbil, for the support during these trying times. And he said, do you think the new Ukrainian drone / misspell, do you think the new Ukrainian drone / rocket looks similar to the V2, and are there more new innovations to come? And LSA forever. And also the new Ukrainian drone / rocket. Can you pull up a picture of that, Enforcer? It is the new Hell missile, also known as the, I believe is the Pelto or Pelko or something like that. I can't remember the name right off the top of my head, but it's called the Ukrainian Hell missile. Let's see a picture real quick, because also we might need to see a comparison between a V2 as well, just to take a look at it.
A Hell missile? What's its actual name?
It's a Peklo. It's a Peklo missile that Ukraine came up with. It's like a mixture between a drone and a cruise missile at the same time.
Here we go.
All right, so that's the new Peklo missile. That was used for the first time ever on the battlefield today. It was used to strike a Russian pipeline, which transports oil from Russia to Europe and goes through Belarus. And it was used today to actually strike one of the facilities that runs that pipeline, and also to strike the pipeline itself. Several were used, and it's the first known use of it. And what's very interesting about this piece of weaponry, as you can see on top of it, there's an actual jet engine on top. There's also a missile body, and there's 2 winglets on each side of it. It's like a mix between a cruise missile. It has that capability, flies at about 450 miles an hour or so, and also it has the ability to loiter, and it also has a very long range on it as well. I don't remember the range right off the top of my head, but it kind of does look like a V2. If you can pull that up, Enforcer, it's a little bit different, but I can kind of see like what you'd mean by the reference. But if we can see that V2, that would be a big help.
He probably means the V1 instead.
Yeah, like yeah, it probably means the V1, probably. Yeah, it looks like there's a jet engine of sorts on top of it. It actually kind of does like have a resemblance to it. Two winglets on each side, jet engine on top. Obviously the Ukrainian one looks much sleeker and much nicer than this. This looks like a complete whale right here, like this one right here that the Germans came up with. But obviously that was a different time period. But the new one that Ukraine came up with looks really sick, and it's much more technologically advanced, of course. But I love it a lot. It actually looks quite similar.
Yeah, it does. Uh, Thank you so much for the support. I hope that did address that well. Might not be me talking. I can't really talk right now, though, but thank you once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to none other than Chef Danny B, who puts in a $30 donation. And thank you very much, Danny, as well, for that $30 support and helping to keep the channel running. And he said, "Good evening, Enforcers. Chef Danny here, and love to have y'all back. And Enforcer, please don't make yourself worse. I don't work Mondays, so I'm happy to get to watch, of course. And LSA, baby!" And thank you very much, Danny, for the kind words. And of course, it's good to have you back as well. And the Enforcer is going to try to save his voice tonight because, of course, we don't want him to get worse. And before we started the stream tonight, he was hopeful that he was feeling better. We thought the medication was going to work, and sadly, it does not look like it's working as proposed. So I propose he goes and gets a second opinion from a second doctor that might have a little bit better recommendations, or at least be able to prescribe something that can maybe get rid of this. To me, it sounds like maybe it's more than just a usual cough, but I'm no doctor. I'm not qualified to say that, obviously, so that's just my layman's opinion of the situation. But thank you very much, Danny, and of course, Enforcer, what say you?
I thank you for the support, and I thank you for saying that. There's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why we are trying to get on air. YouTube algorithmically is kind of, no lie, a slave driver. If we do not keep up a regular schedule, they will just start to delist us in the algorithm. And considering that this is our livelihood, that could be the end of us being able to pay our bills and do our job. The other thing is that this is our job, and this is the way in the long run we do pay our bills, and there is no paid leave or sick leave or anything. It's just we're here or we're not. So we kind of we kind of have to make it work, and so hopefully that's kind of the thing that we're having to deal with, because there is no retirement pension for us or anything like that. We just have to work, and if we're not working, we're not eating. So that's kind of the issue with that there, kind of why we're trying to rush to get on air, although I can hardly handle talking most of the time. So I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next super chat here. This one goes to none other than Andy L. Once again, he throws in his second support of the night, and this time it's a $50 donation. And huge shout to Andy once again for the very generous support, second time. And Andy said, "It's that time of year, and no worries, and just hack and cough and go on." And Andy, that is good advice, but sadly, it sounds like the cough might be more severe than originally thought, sadly. So, like I said, second doctor, second opinion, maybe that'll fix it. Maybe get some medication, or maybe a different diagnosis. Maybe that'll take care of it. But of course, hopefully that addresses it well. But Enforcer, do you have anything you'd like to add, or would you like to take a hiatus on that one?
Thank you for the support, Andy L. We'll keep that in mind, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here is going to go to Cypress96, who puts in a 28. And thank you very much, Cypress, as well, for that support. They said, "Why would that ship that cut the cables drag its anchor that far? And is it possible that they didn't know the anchor was down? Or could it be that they didn't know exactly where the cables were?" And Cypress, that's a question right there that I think we all know the answer to. I'm not going to say definitively which one it is, because of course, maybe there is a slight possibility that maybe it was an accident, but they cut several data cables and also power cables. And also, considering the fact that dragging an anchor that deep and cutting that many crucial cables would probably be pretty obvious to an experienced mariner that you don't do that, I kind of find it hard to believe it would be an accident. I think it pretty much is what it seems to be, which is probably maybe intentional. And of course, we have to be careful what we say here. We don't want to defame anybody, and in case it was an accident, we got to leave that door open. So, me personally, it's possible what you're saying. Maybe they didn't know, but I really doubt it. But Enforcer, what say you?
They had to have known. You don't forget that an anchor is down on a ship. You just don't. That's something that is checked before you go underway. And the fact that they dragged it 100 kilometers, it says a lot, to be entirely honest. That's why the ship was boarded and impounded in the first place. So I'd say it was more than likely sabotage, because if it isn't, that is gross incompetence to the point it's unbelievable. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, let me grab a couple of things here from the live chat. I think I've got them now. So moving on to our next one. This one goes to BC Skyman yet again, and he threw in yet another support, and huge shout out to BC, seriously, for the second support of the night. And he put in a super sticker of the YouTube creature riding the rocket. It looks like a firework, actually, and it went and blew up in the sky. Wow, that's crazy right there. Kind of like people are going to do on the New Year's Day, or New Year's night, actually, with the fireworks. But thank you very much, BC, once again, for the massive support. And Enforcer, say thank you.
Thank you for the support. And we're on to the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to none other than Terrence Custer, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Terrence, as well, for that support. He said, here's your Christmas present. Where's mine? He said, just kidding. You guys, 6 nights a week is it. And have a great 2025. And LSA. And Terrence, sadly, we didn't have a Christmas present for you this year. Sadly, typically our Christmas present is doing the Christmas address. And this year, based on all the mumbo jumbo going on in the background, we were not able to pull that off this year. Next year will be different, though. We will have that out, and we will have an entire production to make up for what happened this year by not having it. So sorry about not having that this year, but thank you very much for understanding, Terrence Custer, and still supporting the channel anyway, and we appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. It is a very kind thing for you to say. Folks like you help this. Thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to none other than John Bernard, who puts in 820. And thank you very much, John, for that support. And also, John always keeps me updated occasionally on some things going on with a different channel over there that happens to have something to do with condiments and Wiener Schnitzel. And John, I do agree with you 100%, just to say that out loud. But John said, bonus for a Monday night episode. And no need to shout me out, but we are, John. And he said, get well soon, Enforcer, and Happy New Year, Enforcer Matt. And Happy New Year to John as well. And also, of course, Monday is very irregular for us. We usually take this day off, but our hope was, before the Enforcer got coughing again, was that we would start again tonight and go the entire week, and this would make up for at least some of the streams that we missed. But sadly, we have found out that the cough is still hacking quite severely. So we will probably not be able to be on tomorrow, and it's New Year's anyway, so most people would have been off shooting off fireworks and occupied elsewhere, but we will have to take another one off. But thank you very much, John, for the get well soon wishes. And Enforcer, what say you?
I don't know when we're going to be back on air, to be entirely honest with you all, because I'm not going to keep subjecting myself to torture every night. It hurts to cough at this point, and I'm not going to keep coming back every day to, hurt myself more and then recover for a day and keep going through this shit show for 4 months. We're just going to have to take time off. I'm going to have to get better, and then we're going to have to come on air, because at this point, I think I'm more aggravated with it than y'all probably are, because I'm the one having to cough through it. So I thank you so much for the support. Hopefully it does get better. I don't know when we will be back, but I'm going to get a damn second opinion, because I don't think that other person knew what the hell they were talking about. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here. This one is going to go to, let me double check. It's going to go to Flash1, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Flash, for that support also. And of course, old-time channel legend. And Flash said, hello, Enforcer brothers. And tonight here in Australia is New Year's Eve. So we get to go into the new year before you. And Happy New Year to everyone. And let's hope that the war might end next year. And long live the LSA. Love the show. And live chat question, please. And of course, Flash, Happy New Year's to you as well. That's weird that Australia gets New Year's Eve tonight, and it's tomorrow night for us. That is really weird to think about, but Australia is getting it early. So let us know. Do y'all do fireworks the same way that we do it? I'd imagine y'all probably do on New Year's Eve and that night, but let us know. Is it as big of a deal as it probably is in the United States? I'd be curious to know that. But also, by the way, they said maybe the war might end next year. Me personally, I kind of doubt that. I think people were hoping that maybe peace negotiations would happen and it would bring it to an end. But Russia's making it very clear that they do not want to have peace. They don't want to negotiate unless it's a complete and unconditional surrender on the Ukrainian side. And that is never going to happen under any circumstance. So I think it's going to continue for quite some time. And I think the U.S. will keep funding them for quite some time as well. But Enforcer, what say you?
I think you for the support. War is going to go on probably a good bit longer, and we're on. What's the live chat?
All right, so the live chat question here. Let me grab one thing from the live chat real quick. This live chat question is going to go to Son of Jack, who said, "Does this mean that 3 or 4 pipelines are now down?" And Son of Jack, that's an interesting question. Technically, today's pipeline was severely damaged, but I don't think it's completely out of action. So I don't think there will be 3 or 4 down. There might be 1 or 2 down, but not 3 or 4. So, unfortunately, Ukraine was not able to completely annihilate the pipeline today, going from Russia to Europe. But that is the case. Also, by the way, I saw some people saying earlier, why are we celebrating the attack of a pipeline going to Europe? That's because that is the main way that Russia gets to prop up their economy. Even though that oil is needed by Europe, Europe has other means to get that oil. They do not have to get it from Russia. It's more convenient to get it from Russia. But once again, they are indirectly funding Russia's war effort against Ukraine. So in my opinion, I think it's a decent thing that Ukraine struck it on the Russian side of things. I'm not advocating for a strike on the European side whatsoever. Like, I want to make that clear. Ukraine struck it on the Russian side and damaged it. And it might be out of action for maybe a few days or a week or so, but it'll probably be back in action pretty soon. But Enforcer, do you have anything you want to add?
That's the fifth pipeline down. Thank you for the support. We're on to the next one.
5th pipeline down.
Yes.
And I don't want to make you talk, but how did you come up with that?
2 in Ukraine, 2 in Nord Stream. 2 in Ukraine are shutting down. Nord Streams are down. There's 2 through Belarus. 1 got hit. That one's getting knocked out largely today. So 5 of them are down right now. There's only 1 that ran.
Interesting. Now, I think he was referring to the ones coming out of Russia, though, like going into Europe.
Yes, there's 6 of them.
Okay. I'm not sure about that, but I'll have to do some research here. But moving on to our next super chat. This one goes to ABCD, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, ABCD, for always supporting the channel. And like always, doing it again tonight. We appreciate it. And they said, may the new year, 2025, bless you and the LSA with health, happiness, wisdom, and peace in the world. And get well soon, Enforcer.
And thank you for the support and the kind words. And hopefully I do get better. And thank you so much once again. It means a lot. And hopefully we'll have a great new year. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next one here. Let me try to reorganize the spreadsheet real quick. It's hard to keep up with the spreadsheet and also talk at the same time, but I'm doing it though. But moving on to our next one. This one goes to Richard Head, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Richard, as well for that support. Richard said, go to the doctor to see if you're having whooping cough. There have been 128 cases in southern Alabama this year, and thanks for trying to touch it out, or I guess tough it out. And we really can wait for the news long enough for you to get healthy and LSA. And Richard, don't worry, he'll be going to another doctor again, and they'll let us know if he's got the whooping cough or whatever cough he's got, and hopefully he's not contagious. He tells me he's not contagious, but hopefully he's not, so hopefully it doesn't spread to me, because I was dealing with a cough that lingered for months. Y'all might remember that, and thankfully it went away. So I'm not dealing with it now, and hopefully it does not come back. And hopefully the Enforcer goes away. But Enforcer, just say thank you. Please just say thank you.
Thank you for the support. I am going to be going to a new doctor. Don't think the last one knew what they were talking about. I am fairly certain that they didn't know, because every time they came in my damn room, I was sitting in that doctor's office for 3 hours. There was like no one in there. And every time they came in, they acted like they just met me. And it was the same doctor every damn time. So I don't think they know what they were talking about. I don't even think they knew who the hell they were talking to or what they were looking at. So I'm going to have to go to another one. That annoys me a lot. Like, it annoyed me a lot when I was in there. I was trying to be patient and nice with this person. I was like, maybe they're busy. But then I walked outside and the lobby was empty. All the rooms were empty. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, were you like watching like Rick and Morty on your phone in the corner? What's going on here? But I do thank you for the support, and hopefully I'll be able to have this fixed. It seems as though I'm not coughing right now, but it will start up here in a second, most likely, and I'm probably going to get no sleep tonight because I got no sleep last night because I was coughing all night. But still, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Paul Liam, who puts in a 20 as well. And thank you very much, Paul, for that support. He said, warm mist humidifier and aged garlic. The aged garlic part kind of freaks me out, I'm not going to lie. That's an interesting part there. But if it works, I guess it works. But a humidifier might be a good idea as well. Sadly, I don't have one of those on hand, but we might have to get one, though, if that actually does help. And I've seen a lot of people actually recommending that in the chat. So I think you're on to something, Paul. We got to go find ourselves a humidifier. That's the answer as well. But Enforcer, what'd you like to say?
I'm going to be honest. I don't know if that helped or not. It's not something that's mucus related. I don't think. Like I'm just coughing a cough. Like I don't feel. Well, I feel hot back here. I got like sweat all over my forehead. I don't know if it's because this room is hot or something. It gets hot usually when the show's running, but and then I can't run the little fan behind me because it makes me cough. So I got to turn that off. But I'm trying to figure out what it is. I don't know what it is. I did get tested for pneumonia, the Wuhan whirlybird, and all that stuff. And all that did, according to the doctor, who may or may not know what they're doing, all came back negative. So like taking that at face value, apparently I have nothing, because they said you're perfectly healthy, like even the x-rays came back with nothing, and I was like, okay. It's like, all right, well, got any recommendations for anything? Probably just what the hell did they call it? It was some nasal drip, something like that, post-nasal drip, and they were like, it's probably nothing, but then it just keeps going, and I'm like, it's getting worse. Like I can hardly talk without it getting worse. Like I just go insanely bad, just coughing horrendously. So we'll have to see, because I don't know. I'll have to go try and find a new doctor and pray that they know what the hell they're doing, and actually can help out. And also the other thing that told me that this doctor didn't know what the hell they were talking about is I am allergic to steroids. And I told the nurse that processed me in that they were like, are you allergic to anything? I was like, yeah, steroids. So then the doctor comes in and is like, well, we can give you a steroid. I was like, I'm allergic to those. Oh, you are? I was like, what the hell? Did you not even read like the form that they filled out on me before you came in here? And like they asked that like twice. They were like they came in another time and acted like they never even said, well, we could give you steroids. Like I'm allergic to steroids. And I don't know. Well, we're gonna have to go to another one though. But right now I'm talking fine and I'm not coughing. It'll start up again, but this whole thing's annoying because I just want to get on the show. I just want to work. I just want to put out the news, put out analysis, and now I can hardly talk without going into insane coughing fits. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well, but we will be trying to get this fixed because I want to get to the news as much as y'all want to hear it. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to none other than Rob S., who puts in a 20 as well. And thank you very much, Rob, for that support. He said, rum helps a cough. Now, I'm sure that rum helps a cough. Maybe so. Personally, we don't drink the alcohols of any sort. We stay pretty much away from that. But maybe the rum would help. Maybe the Enforcer might be desperate enough to hit the alcohol cabinet. I don't know. But Enforcer, what say you?
I thank you for the support. At this point, I'm open to anything. We might consider that. And so with that, thank you for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, it's just a joke. We're not hitting the alcohol cabinet to help anything.
Yeah.
We're not. Thank you, Rob, for the suggestion, but we don't hit the alcohol cabinet. We're passing on that. But moving on to our next one, this one goes to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang, who puts in a 15. And thank you very much, AMX10, for the support once again. They said the length of the Ukraine war has just passed half the length of the time of Hitler's invasion of Poland in 1939 to the surrender of Nazi Germany in 1945. And I hate to do this, but the Enforcer knows a lot more about the history and things like this than me. So I'm going to let him commentate on it, but hopefully he takes it easy. So Enforcer, what say you?
So that is true. It's a very interesting thing. Economically, Nazi Germany collapsed by early 1944. So going off of that metric, it shouldn't be that much longer until the Russian Federation would completely economically collapse. I think that's as much as I can do. Thank you for the support. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Richard Gregor, who puts in a $15 donation. Thank you very much, Richard, for that support. He said, as always, Enforcer, and he put ... I don't know why, but he put ... I guess he just meant the Enforcer. He said, thanks for the news. Get well soon, and please take a question from the chat. And we shall get a question from the chat. So we are going to grab that right now. And this one goes to Activista, who said, my question to you both is, do you think NATO's continued relative inaction could actually result in an accident or an incident which fully triggers Article 5? And I guess you mean relative inaction in reference to these anchor dragging incidents and things like that. Also, these hybrid warfare tactics that Russia keeps using on the West. I would say that if something gets to the point where NATO officials have warned us could cause mass casualties, that might actually trigger Article 5. And that actually should trigger Article 5. The moment that civilians start getting caught up in this and start dying as a result of Russia's hybrid warfare and sneaky warfare tactics in the West, I would say that would be basically an act of war that we should start addressing that directly with Russia. So to answer your question, I think it could go there. I would still say it's maybe unlikely it still would go there right now, but if something changes, it very much well might. But Enforcer, what do you think? You can say just yes or no, or you can leave it at that.
I largely agree. And thank you for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Junebug72, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Junebug. They said, Happy New Year, and glad you're getting better, and take it easy. And hi, Matt. Oh, hello, Junebug. And hello, LOC. And I hope that the Enforcer gets better as well. And also, Happy New Year to you, Junebug. And also, Happy New Year to everybody in the live chat. And also, once again, Happy New Year. I'm not sure where I was going with that. I was going to mention something about fireworks, but then it slipped my mind. So I'm going to move on from that. But once again, big thanks to Junebug72. And moving on to our next one, this one goes to Tom Exman, who puts in a 10 and says, for cough syrup. And we shall put that toward the drink fund. Not really. We'll put that toward the cough syrup fund. Not Delsum. Maybe something else. Maybe a little bit better. Maybe prescription this time. Maybe the doctor will prescribe something. Maybe to get rid of that cough. I'm not really sure though. It'll depend on the second doctor's opinion. But thank you very much, Tom, for contributing to the cough syrup fund. Also, we have a 10 from Sarah A, who does not leave a comment, but huge shout out to Sarah for that $10 support and helping to keep us running. We also have a 10 from Scott Clemens, who said, I know you like trains, and the Washington Park and Zoo Railway is a 2-foot, 6-inch narrow gauge recreational railroad in Portland, Oregon's Washington Park with a rolling stock built to 5/8 scale. And check out Wikipedia in 1958.
Look at it. I won't be able to talk a lot.
Just show it so that way I can commentate on it. I got to see it though. It's the Washington Park and Zoo Railway. Let's see that. What we got going with that? He's pulling it up now. Washington Park and Zoo Railway. It's got a 3.6 star on Google, so very interesting. That's a weird looking train. I was about to say modern. I can't tell really what that is. He says it's a 2-foot, 6-inch narrow gauge recreational railroad. So very interesting. So it's a mini train of sorts, I guess. And it's actually, I like the design of it. It looks pretty sick, actually. And it's going around a zoo, which is always interesting. I like the mini trains that go around zoos. That's always pretty cool. But let's see. The Enforcer's pulling up the Airliner here. The Airliner train. Yes, that. The Airliner. Oh, the GM, General Motors, yeah. Oh, look, it's actually modeled after that. That's the real deal.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's pretty sick. Like I like that. I've never seen that train though. I'm not a train fanatic, obviously, but I've never seen that one. That's actually, I like that retro style. It's like the 1950s looking. I like that.
It's pretty cool. I believe there's very few of them left in restoration. But there's the one.
The zoo, they call it the zoo liner, literally. That's what they call it.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, this one's a redone cab. These are terrible, ugly. But yeah, pretty cool. But with that, I wish I could talk about it more, but if I do, I'm going to choke to death. So thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on from the zoo liner, we're moving on to the next one here, which goes to the Weary Traveler, who puts in a 10. And big shout out to the Weary Traveler for being so upbeat and throwing in that $10 support. Not so weary anymore. They're very, very, very much happy now. But the Traveler said, I heard y'all were from Alabama. And yes, we are from Alabama, for better or worse. So I had to give a shout out to my old stomping grounds of Mount Olive and Gardendale. And very interestingly enough, Gardendale is to the north of us right now. I've been there maybe once or twice. I don't know much about Gardendale, except I stopped through there traveling up to Huntsville once or twice. So I've seen Gardendale a little bit, not the downtown though, just the surrounding perimeter of it. Mount Olive, I really don't know where that is in Alabama. I've never been to Mount Olive. That might be where they do the pickles, maybe Mount Olive perhaps. But Enforcer, yes or no, have you been to Mount Olive or do you know about it? Yeah, where even is Mount Olive? Let's see that first.
Mount Olive.
It's right there.
Right here.
That's weird. I've never been to or seen this actually. It's a full-on. Is there a downtown to it?
Have I seen this place? I think I may have. Where is this?
That's Fultondale right there. That's like, I think next to Gardendale maybe.
Yeah, there's Gardendale and there's Mount Olive right here. So let's take a look at it.
So that's what they got going right there. Oh, that's a nice picture. That's much more picturesque than it really looks in real life, I'm going to be perfectly honest. But let's see here. So I guess that's why they call it Mount Olive. It's literally Mount Olive. So very interesting. So that's pretty much all there is to the downtown. It's just like one street with some stuff on the side, some businesses and things. So very interesting. But that is Weary Travelers' old stomping grounds, Mount Olive in Gardendale. So very interesting. And also hello to a fellow Alabamian. It's not too often we get Alabamians in here. We have a few in the chat, but not too many. So it's good to have you. But moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Hoodoo, Texas, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Hoodoo, for once again returning to the channel in the chat and supporting us as well. We appreciate it very much. Hoodoo Texas says a humidifier with distilled water can work wonders in a room for stopping coughs, very fast results, and easy to use and inexpensive. And you're the second one in the super chats to suggest that. We might have to look into the humidifier situation and see if that works. I think the enforcer was skeptical about it, so I'm not sure if we'll actually do it or not, but we might have to do it, and at least try it. But thank you, Hoodoo, for that support and also the suggestion as well. So, enforcer, are you for or against the humidifiers at this point? Yes or no?
I'll give it a shot. But I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
Also, let's see. Someone asked me a question in the live chat here. Sadly, I can't type because I'm talking. I can't do both at the same time. I'm a little bit single track minded like that. But they said, let's see here. What's the only way a person can donate to you guys? Or do you have a PayPal? We do not give out our PayPal to prevent people from scamming anybody, because there's like scams where people will go into our comment section and put a PayPal in there and say, oh, look, donate to the Enforcer channel and go here. So we don't use PayPal for donations whatsoever to make sure nobody gets scammed. If you want to donate, though, a super chat's the way to do it. Also, we have a Patreon as well if you want to check that out. But that's the two ways typically. But moving on to our next one here, this one goes to Danny B, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Danny, as well for the support. I think that's the second one of the night. And Danny says, Enforcer, we all know you love to do this and take a few days off. Get well. The LSA will always be here. And Danny, I do appreciate the sentiment. Now, of course, we do know that you will be here, and also the channel legends will return as well. But we do have to keep in mind, even though we can't run the Enforcer into the ground over coughing, that, like the Enforcer said, YouTube really does not care about anybody being sick. They will deprioritize you in the algorithm if you do not simply keep doing it on a consistent schedule. So that's something we have to balance in addition to the other thing. That's why I think getting a second opinion from a doctor might be the best way to go to try to nip that in the bud and make sure that the channel stays alive and the Enforcer stays alive as well. But Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you for the support. To answer your question, the issue with that is that YouTube will delist us in the algorithm or deprioritize us, which is a major issue, because that's kind of how we make our living. Like, you know, we support Ukraine, but this is also our full-time job. We've always made that clear since day one. And this is how we are able to support ourselves and pay our bills and keep the lights on and just keep rolling. And so if we get delisted in the algorithms and it's so bad that no one even gets told that we're back on air when we come back on air, we could pretty much be out of a job. And that's kind of what is concerning, kind of why there's a big pressure. Although I have been saying in the background, I'm like, you know, it'd be a lot better for us to just stay off air, for me to get over this thing, because it's only going to screw us over in the long run if I keep on trying to benefit us in the short term of getting on air and running a show. But, you know, we're still concerned enough that we're getting on air. But I do thank you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to W13RD Guy, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, W13RD Guy, for that support. They said Raw Local Honey Fund, and take one from the chat. And Raw Local Honey, I don't even know if we have that around here. Is that an Alabama thing? I'm not even really sure. But if we have some, we do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have lots.
Oh, we have lots. I've never seen it, but maybe some raw local honey. What's the difference between raw honey and other honey? Like, can you tell me, like, in just a couple of words, what the difference is?
Less processed.
Less processed. So I guess it's just like literally like throw a honeycomb or something in a jar and throw it in there with just the straight up honey, just the pure stuff, the best stuff. But interesting. So maybe you might have to try that. I might be a little scared to try that raw honey. But I do know about that mad honey though. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that stuff. I saw a guy that does a food review channel here on YouTube trying out that mad honey from Nepal, I think it is. And it's very interesting. Also, let's see here. Enforcers pulling up the Grist Mill Park. Apparently, this is here in Alabama. And they must have some of that raw honey, but not the mad honey, but maybe the raw honey. But Enforcer, do you have anything to say? I hate to ask that, but do you have anything to say about it since you pulled it up?
There's a store here. They run a bee farm at this place, and in the store you can buy raw honey. I've done it before when I went out here and reenacted, but I haven't been able to do it recently. But you can get raw honey literally right here.
Did they have that mad honey?
No.
Oh, damn, man. They didn't have that mad honey. That mad honey is crazy, though. I wouldn't touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole, literally. But anyways, with that, thank you very much once again for that support. And we are moving on, W13RD guy, to our next one, which goes to Bill Blake, who puts in a 10 as well. And thank you very much, Bill Blake, for that support. And Bill said gargle with some salt water. And I think, honestly, Bill, like, first of all, thank you for the advice and also the support as well. I know it's coming from a good place, but I think the gargling with the salt water might be not sufficient for the situation. It sounds like it's a little bit more severe than that. I thought maybe it wasn't this severe, but it sounds like it may be pretty damn severe based on the sounds of it. So I'm not sure if that'll work, but that's another suggestion. Maybe humidifier, gargling with salt water. That's the two next ones. Maybe some raw honey, mix that in too with the salt water. That's perhaps maybe a good mixture of all three. But Enforcer, what do you think? You going to gargle or what?
We're going to go to a doctor. Then I might gargle some salt water, maybe. But still, thank you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Avari Mandabratis, who put in a 10. And big shout out to Avari once again for the support. They said, I was RX on benzenate. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but 200 mg for cough. And this other one here that I can't pronounce for 300 mg for antibiotics for sinus and upper respiratory infections. And also bought ones for 2 months with OTC drugs before seeing the doc, cured in 2 weeks. Cured in 2 weeks. Now, that is promising, actually. That would be a very good thing for the Enforcer to get cured. Maybe in 1 week, but 2 weeks would work too. But we'll have to see what the doctor says. I'm not sure, like, I don't think you can go into the doctor and be like, hey, I want that one or something. But maybe that's why they run pharmaceutical commercials, because I don't understand why they do that either. I don't really see people usually walking in and saying, hey, I want that drug right there. Like, can I have that one? Usually that's something, in my experience, the doctor usually recommends. But maybe so. Maybe they might prescribe something like that. Maybe that would be a big help. It sounds like it worked very good for Avari, so maybe it would work good for the Enforcer too. But Enforcer, what do you think?
Why the hell does it always start every time I start talking, man? Like, I can go like 10 minutes without coughing, and as soon as I want to talk, I start coughing. But that is
why don't you get closer to the mic and talk as low as possible?
I'm talking as low as I possibly can right now. That's an idea. We'll give it a shot. Because that's all I got. Also, someone just asked, and I got to laugh out of this one. Why don't you all have backups to fill in? This isn't CNN, buddy. It's just me and Matthew. Like, if the show isn't running, it's not running because we're not here. There aren't writers.
Whoa, Jack! He's just giving a suggestion. Whoa.
There aren't writers. There isn't anyone here. It's just us. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so we are moving on here to our next one. And also, we sadly do not have backups, and we'll never have backups because it's really weird. Me and the Enforcer, since we're brothers, we have a good dynamic here on the stream. It's hard to replicate that, and that's why so many people can't pull this off on a daily basis because it's a very hard dynamic to replicate. Not trying to brag or, be uppity or anything like that, just saying the way it is. It's very hard to replicate. But anyways, moving on here to our next one. This one goes to Mind Freak, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Mind Freak, for that support. They give a recipe. They said half of chopped onion, 3 crushed garlic cloves, and a tablespoon of honey. There's the honey again. Let it sit for 1 hour so the juices come out. Have 1 teaspoon of syrup every 1 hour. It tastes foul. But works miracles for cough. And, I guess good medicine always has to taste foul. It seems to be a common thread amongst all of them. If it tastes foul, it must work pretty damn good. So I'll have to take your word on that one. And maybe the Enforcer might try the juices of syrup maybe sometime soon with that chopped onion. But thank you very much for the support and also the suggestion. Enforcer, what do you think about that idea?
That's an interesting idea. We'll try. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one here goes to Danny B, who throws in, I believe, the third support of the night. And huge shout to you, Danny, once again. Chef Danny, for that support. He said, Enforcer, when I was going through my cancer treatment, oh goodness, and working full time, it really made it so much worse. So please make sure you were number one. And damn, Danny, I did not know that. Also, sorry to hear about the cancer, by the way. Hopefully, you're fully recovered from it. And also, working full time through that's a hell of a situation. So that's really being a trooper right there. So once again, sorry to hear that. And also, thank you for wishing the Enforcer well. But Enforcer, what say you? Do you agree?
That sounds like something I agree with, because getting on the show, as much as I like doing it, it's making it worse every time. And so thank you once again, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Plazat, who puts in a 7. And thank you very much, Plazat, as well, for the support. They said, Happy New Year already, LSA. And I guess for some of you, it is already New Year's. Like we see in Australia, it's New Year's Eve already tonight. So we get to have that tomorrow night. I'm sure the fireworks will be crazy tomorrow here at Enforcer HQ 2.0. We are not going to be able to do that, sadly, because of the area that we're in. But maybe I have a feeling other people are going to disregard the rules. I have a feeling about that. But we're personally not going to be doing it. I wish I could, but sadly not. But Happy New Year's to you, Plazat, and thank you very much for that support. We also have a 6 from Thomas Kruger, who says, Enforcer and Matt, I appreciate your work. And Thomas, we appreciate you being a viewer, and we appreciate you supporting the channel as well. And thank you very much once again for being here once again tonight. And also, smash that like button too, if you already haven't. That goes for the audience. Thank you very much, LSA, for smacking that like. Also, we have a $5 super chat from Nick Nelson, who said, Matt, the Israeli airstrike targeted Sana'a International Airport in Yemen and almost killed the WHO Director General Tedros was present. Very interesting to hear that. I think I heard wind of that, that the WHO director was there. Apparently, he barely made it out. So I'm glad he made it out safely. So, yeah, there you go. So, Enforcer, did you hear about that? Did you happen to hear that piece of news?
I didn't.
He did not hear about that. I heard wind of it, but I didn't hear the story directly. So I'm just glad to hear he made it out. And sadly, I don't know much more to say other than that. But thank you very much, Nick, for that support. We also have a 5 from Burnaby Alex. And thank you very much, Burnaby, for that support as well. He said, did dipping into the strategic maple syrup reserve help with that cough? And sadly, we don't have that strategic reserve here. I think that's a Canadian thing, maybe, but we don't have that. We have strategic oil reserves, though. Maybe some nice oil would help, but maybe not. But Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you for the support. We don't have anything here hardly. I mean, we're sleeping on air mattresses and stuff. So you know, it is what it is. But yeah, we don't have any maple syrup here at the moment. But I do thank you for the support, and and we're on to the next one.
And also, David Boy said, why was the WHO director, the World Health Organization, by the way, if you don't know what that means, why were they in Yemen? I don't know why they're in Yemen. I guess he gets around and goes to different places and things like that. But seriously, to answer your question, I really don't know why he was there. But he made it out safely. But moving on to our next one, it goes to Snappy452, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Snappy. They said, a bite of cake for the Cough Drop Fund. God bless, Happy New Year, and LSA. And also, a bite of cake. I would like that. That sounds quite good. And some cough drops. I don't think the Enforcer actually got cough drops when he went and got that Delsum the other day. So, Enforcer, why didn't you pick some of those up?
I thought the medicine would do it on its own.
Oh man, some cough drops. I've heard some people recommending these cough drops with like a numbing effect to them as well. I've always been leery of those because they have like a really bad warning on the back of the box that says it could cause you to like literally lose the oxygen in your blood cells and die. I don't know if that's like just, one of those warnings they just throw on there for the hell of it or if it's something serious, but it's always made me leery about those. So I usually just go with normal cough drops, but that might be something to get as well. Maybe so. But thank you very much, Snappy, for the support once again. And we also have a 5 from Aztecian. And thank you, Aztecian, as well. They put in the famous German words here, Geschlecht Verlagerung in Deutschen votes. And I still don't know what that means. It means something. The Enforcer coined that. I don't know what it means, though. Maybe the Enforcer will enlighten us one day. But gibberish. Aztecian, what was that? Uh-huh.
Gibberish.
It's gibberish. It's complete bull hockey. It's a joke. But there you go, Aztecian. That's what that's the meaning of it. But thank you very much once again for that support. And also, we are moving on to our next one before I get too goofy on that one. And we're going to this one, which goes to Russia C, who puts in a 5. And says, greetings from Malaysia. and greetings from the United States. They said, I know why North Korea kept causing friendly fire. As Asian, I can't read that now. That's getting crazy right there. I think y'all know where that's about to go. I can't read that. They said JK, but I don't know if YouTube's going to take that as a JK, so I'm going to have to pass on reading it. But, oh boy. Thank you very much for that support once again. There's nothing I can say about that, sadly, otherwise we're going to jump right into that joke and maybe get us banned. So I'm going to have to pass on that, but thank you very much for that support. And moving on to our next one here, this one goes to Alcacer, who puts in a 5 and says, today's booms went with a bang, 8 on the Bliat scale, and I would agree with that. Big booms, it knocked the audio out almost. They said, this will be my last super chat till further notice, as I've been saving my money lately, and that's very good. Save that money. He said, Happy New Year and LSA. And Happy New Year to you as well. The Bliat scale was broken today. I think we can all agree upon that. It was broken indeed. Those are some very big HIMARS booms happening in Russia today, and probably won't be matched for quite some time, at least a few weeks. But Enforcer, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I thank you for the support. And Bliat scale indeed, big one. And thank you once again. And we're on to the next one.
All right. And also, let's see here. I saw Richard in the live chat. He gave us some elaboration here about the strategic maple syrup reserve. I don't know much about it. Let's see. Richard said Quebec. That's concerning. Why am I coughing? But Richard said Quebec has a strategic maple syrup reserve. The U.S. has strategic cheese reserve. You know, interesting enough, Richard, that you mentioned that. The Enforcer actually made a video about those cheese caves that the U.S. government created. It was an interesting video. I think he made it about a year and a half ago or so. It's still here on the channel if you want to go take a look at it. It was a very interesting video about a topic that I was really not sure why it came up, but it was interesting information nonetheless. But I have not heard about the maple syrup reserve. Maybe the Enforcer might have to make one on that one next, so that way I can learn some more about it. But interesting, Canada actually does have one, believe it or not. I was just joking when I said that, but apparently it's real. But moving on here to our next one, this one goes to Alfie, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Alfie, for the support. I said, ho, ho, ho. I'm sorry, the hot dog man's not home. Merry Christmas to the loveliest LSA gang, and a Happy New Year's to everybody. Ho, ho, ho. Like I said, the hot dog man doesn't live here. I'm sorry about that, but Merry Christmas to you as well, and also Happy New Year as well. And that zinger came out of nowhere. That was a good one, if I do say so myself. I got to give myself a pat on the back for that one. But Enforcer, what say you? What do you say about that?
That was good. That was good. And I got to thank you for the support. I'm this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here goes to Crispy, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Crispy, for that support. I see the chat's catching up with that zinger right there. I hope you all like that one. Crispy put in that 5 and said, excellent stream. Get well soon. I'm on the same cough medicine. Oh, you're on Delsum too. I hope it's working better for you because it hasn't really worked that well for the Enforcer. So, but thank you very much for the kind words about the stream, and thank you very much, Crispy, for that support. We try to be crispy here on this stream as well, and hopefully it has been crispy, at least tonight, somewhat. It's under the circumstances, that is. But moving on here to our next one, this one goes to Steve, and also Trouble Actual, who each put in a $3 donation and did not leave comments. But thank you very much, Steve and Trouble Actual, for that support and helping to keep us running. We also have a 2 from Parabox. We have two $2 super chats from Parabox. They said, call it, rest is always the solution. And rest is a solution. The Enforcer will be getting some rest after this stream here, and tomorrow as well. And I assume from this point forward, until the Enforcer gets better, I'll be making probably all the short war videos into the foreseeable future. So you'll be hearing from me quite a bit, more than usual in the coming days, I assume. But Enforcer, what say you?
I thank you for the support. We probably will not be running a stream for some time. I do not know how long, but if I keep doing this, it's not going to get better. I already knew that. It's just that we had to kind of prove it. So Matthew will probably be talking to y'all a lot. I probably will not be able to make any videos. Probably, honestly, I will not be able to make any videos. So y'all will be hearing from Matthew a lot. I'll be honest with y'all. I don't think he's going to be complaining about that. But still, I think that's how it's going to be. But still, I thank you for the support. We're on to the next one.
Oh my. But anyways, moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Darren Quinn, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Darren, for that support as well. And we appreciate it very much. No comment to address. And we also have a 2 from Boy. And thank you very much, Boy, for that support. He said, zinc, magnesium, ginger, and fresh slice of garlic equals a thumbs up. And we just need to get ourselves some zinc, magnesium, and some ginger. I think we got the garlic, but we don't have the other 3. So I don't know what that recipe is for, by the way. It's good. It sounds like an interesting recipe, but I'm not really not sure what that would do. What's that?
Novichok.
Oh, I thought you said Novichok for a minute. I was about to say, like, surely you don't mean like a nerve agent or something.
That's what I said.
Oh, you said Novichok. Oh, well.
It's
okay,
a joke.
Well, oh, well, Damn. Okay. I mean, don't create Novichok. That's a bad thing to create. That's banned by the world or treaties and things like that. But and all jokes aside, thank you very much, boy, for that support, and also Darren as well for that support. And with that, folks, we are now fresh out of super chat questions. Once again, huge shout to you all for supporting us once again through these trying times tonight with the little cough going on. And hopefully, like seriously, hopefully the cough will be better soon, and we can go back to normal streaming. So that way we can have our normal show running once again. Hopefully that pesky cough will get out of here. But anyways, moving on here to our live chat questions proper, we have our Morse code decoders of the stream. Tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Her Royal Fluffiness, and Arabelle Garbo. They said the Morse code for tonight says, from the LSA Signal Corps, North Korea views the Ukraine war like Squid Game, very small chances of survival, and LLT LSA, and welcome back, guys, and missed you.
Dead on the money. That was the Morse code message. Congratulations. Very good job. And with that, we're on to the third to last question.
All right, so our third to last question of the night. This one is going to go to, and let me look through here because I've only got three, and there's a lot of good ones here. So let's see here. This one goes to Dean Hooper, who said, "Why didn't the West stop North Korea from getting nukes?" And honestly, in my opinion, my assessment of why we did not stop them from getting nukes, and also, by the way, let me pull up here North Korea nukes. When did they get them?
They got them in around 2008.
2008. So that was as of recent, actually. So me personally, I would say the West probably didn't stop them because they have some pretty powerful geopolitical allies. For example, China. That's one reason why we didn't stop them, because China would not be very keen with us coming in there to actually prevent them from creating nukes. And that would require direct intervention to stop that, and China would not be keen on it. So that's probably the primary reason, but there's also some secondary reasons as well. But Enforcer, what were you going to say?
We actually did not know. So on the few times we did know, the nuclear development program in North Korea was kept very, very secret. It was started under Kim Il-sung, and it was finished by Kim Jong-il. Both of them kept the nuclear weapons program very, very secret. Another reason why U.S. intelligence was not able to see is because, unlike other countries that will build uranium mines or they'll import yellow cake, North Korea never imported any radioactive material into their country. It was all produced inside of North Korea by burning incredibly large amounts of coal and then getting the uranium-235 out of the coal and creating yellow cake and then creating a nuclear weapon out of it. So nobody knew until 2008 when they actually conducted a nuclear weapons test, and it was seismographically detected on sensors around the world. Then that's when we knew. That's why we didn't stop them. If we had known, we would have stopped them. But with North Korea, nobody knew until the nuclear test was done and had blown up. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
All right, and this one is going to go to, let's see here. It goes to In the Know, who said, "Have y'all heard anything else about the Russian meeting in the United States? Also, is there anything new about Russia refusing peace talks and Slava Ukraine?" And we did cover both of those topics a little bit earlier on, but just to give you a quick rundown, the Russian meeting in the U.S., we actually don't have any confirmation there was an actual meeting, but there was a Russian plane that flew to Washington, D.C., and then it flew to New York at some point. And, you know, of course, since the Russian government is not welcome in the United States, surely they were here on some diplomatic reason, and there was probably a delegation on board, and we have no clue what was discussed. We have no clue if a meeting even took place, but they were here for a couple of days this week. It was actually 2 days to be precise, in the middle of the week. So very interesting. I'm really not sure what was discussed, obviously. And also, their second part was, is there anything new about Russia refusing peace talks? Rather than the news that we got that apparently they're shooting down all the proposals of the incoming administration, that pretty much gives us all the information we need. They are not actually going to entertain peace talks, and that's pretty much being made clear by that refusal. So I hope that answers both of those questions. But Enforcer, do you have anything you'd like to add?
You covered it incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the final question of the night. So who's the lucky last person who asked the lucky last question of the night?
All right, so our last question of the night is going to go to AF Kaplan, who said, "With all the hybrid warfare being carried out by Russia against NATO, do you think the alliance will reassess its rules of engagement or redefine grounds for invoking Article 4 and 5? And AFK plan, I don't think that you'd actually have to reassess that, in my opinion. Obviously, I'd have to go back and read Article 4 and 5. But I think if the hybrid warfare starts becoming more severe, like I said earlier, where civilians end up getting involved in it and civilians end up getting killed, I think that would be grounds under the current wording of Article 4 and 5 to actually engage the Russians directly under Article 5. In my opinion, I think that would be grounds for it. But once again, it has to cross that threshold into civilian casualties to actually be warranting NATO responding to Russia directly. So outside of that, I don't think the hybrid warfare is going to cause Article 5 to be invoked. Like, for example, cutting data cables and power cables. While that is a bad thing, I don't think the West is really ready to invoke Article 5 and go to war over a data cable. I don't think they're ready for that unless it gets so prevalent and so often that maybe they want to reassess it. But right now, I don't think that's the case. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I'd have to agree. The NATO Charter, it can never be rewritten. It has not really been rewritten before, except for in a very rare instance. And also, it really is more up to interpretation. I don't think, I think I'd have to agree with Matthew entirely on how it would be interpreted. But still, thank you for asking a great question. AFK plan. And that rounds out tonight's show. Thank you all so much once again for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I do not know when we'll be back. Hopefully it'll be as soon as possible. I cannot guarantee when that will be, though. But still, thank you all once again, and we will see you all next time. So with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, once again, huge shout out to you all for another great stream tonight. Another unusual stream, but Enforcer Matt doing a lot of the talking, which is unusual because usually I'm the co-host and not the main talker. So I hope it's been pretty decent under the circumstances. And once again, thank you all for joining us tonight. We had 60,000 people plus joining us by the end of the stream. And of course, it is a Monday night stream, so a little bit lower numbers than usual because I don't think many people were expecting us to be on tonight because I actually only got to put out a Twitter post before we started, and I did not get to put out a YouTube announcement about it. So once again, for everybody that joined us tonight, huge shout out to you all. And once again, thank you all for the support. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Heroem Slava. Hopefully we'll be back on sooner than later. And of course, we'll keep you all updated on Twitter and our community page here on the YouTube channel. And of course, thank you all once again for watching tonight. Smack the like button before you leave. And once again, Slava Ukraine, and good night to you all.